And we're live! Hello and welcome to the 119th episode of Game Theory Gang. I'm Matty Allen with Brisology and Tobiwan _Hexobi. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
How's it going, guys? How's everyone?
Well,
Doing all right.
a tragedy has struck on Pulse Chain.
What was that?
The
I missed
second biggest rug pull scam in Pulse Chain history happened today.
Was it that big?
Yeah. So it
Pulse
wasn't just
Latina.
So it wasn't just that Pulse Latina launched a token 6 hours later. It was down 99%. It was that she or whoever posted in Telegram, I was never a real person. I was a paid actor. I'm going to keep watching from the shadows.
I saw that.
So then deleted the Telegram. And this has been a slow rug that has, she's been supposedly in the community for 2 or 3 months. But so the real problem is that people connected their wallets to this Pulse Latina farm. Yeah. And that's where the majority of hundreds of thousands of dollars have been extracted. So we have an urgent message to start the show to say that anybody that connected their wallet, you need to migrate your coins to a different account or to a different seed phrase, and make sure that you are not getting scammed with the instructions on how to do that. So, a lot of times when people post in public telegrams that they got scammed, then scammers have chatbots that automatically reach out to you to tell you that they can save you and here are the steps. And it's when people are the most distressed that they usually make the worst errors. So we feel bad for anybody who lost money. It's reported that there's at least $400,000 that can be seen on chain that's been exploited. It might be up to $1 million, so that we know of so far.
Crazy.
In the grand scheme of things, that's not going to crash Pulse Chain to zero or something. It's probably going to be like 2 to 4% off.
At the lows,
Matty,
for people to lose at the lows.
Toby here in the chat, he says it's not Gunther. I speak to him pretty frequently. But I did see the message from Pulse Latina and the same message from Gunther, and they look like the same exact wording, the same type.
He's used the from the shadows terminology before, but I mean I don't think that he would do something like this, quite frankly. It's like,
well, he's done it 6 times before, so he's not on our nice list. He's not on the naughty list.
I wouldn't say he's on the readily trusted list, including for myself, even though I speak to the guy personally. But yeah, I mean, I think.
Well, tell him to give everybody their money back.
If it's him, I would not know, because then he's lying to my face. But it's like, I don't think it's him.
It feels like there's a lot of Gunther fingerprints all over this travesty. But you know what? I ain't got no evidence. I just saw two tweets, and you know what?
He's an easy target.
That's enough for me.
Well,
I'll ask him. I'll call and ask him.
Yeah, well, everybody says oh, maybe it wasn't him, and then they read the tweet and they're like, oh yeah, maybe it was.
It sounds
so
right. Or
like word for word.
Well, yeah, but the message itself that they're copying that he originally wrote is saying that he will come back and rug people. So it's like, even if you just take him at face value and don't consider that somebody copycatted his words are still saying that he would do something like this. And his history says that. So this is one of the beautiful things that we have in crypto is we have a way to look at people's track record, and we have a way to go on chain and to see who rugged and who left the money there and who created value. And so it's like, you can do this with me with the Hex badge account where I'm paying Twitter to have all these badges for everybody. You could go look on chain. You could see that there's 100% truth and matching up of the values. And then for other people, you can't trust them because you can look on chain and you can see what they did.
Can I interject a little bit real quick?
Please.
Also, guys, don't go sharpening your pitchforks and looking for this post Latina girl. She's obviously a real person. I heard from somewhere else that she could just be a Fiverr actor.
Uh-huh.
And she has no idea what she's
and there's something to support that too.
Getting involved with.
They found a message that she posted from one of her alts on Telegram. Yeah, here, I've got it right here. So instead of just going off memory, I can show you the evidence. That, yeah, it looks pretty... Now, yeah, anything could be a setup or something, but let me share my screen here. So... Yeah, so somebody was being paid 10 million pulse to make 2 videos as she did, and then that was posted in her Telegram under the context that it was her replying to somebody, but then people are thinking that this was an alt account because she immediately deleted the message after that. So yeah, there's tons of there's tons of evidence here. Of course, again, because we're in crypto, you can do a post-mortem and you can look through people's socials and people save receipts on stuff. So that's useful in educating the community about how to not have this happen again. Now, the number one way that people lost money here was not by buying the token and not by being in her Telegram room, but by trying to yield farm. She was telling people that there was single-sided staking, which is a hard sell. Like getting 300% APY would not be something on single-sided staking, and people wouldn't have put in all their money all at once. But what happened was when they went to connect to her website, the approval for the amount to spend to that website was turned all the way up to max. Okay, so that's a little detail that if you go on PulseX and you hit approve, it's only going to approve for the amount that you're trying to swap for. So if I go on PulseX and I want to swap $1,000 of dirty WETH into Pulse Chain or PulseX or Inc. or Hex of all things, it's going to approve me for $1,000 worth of my wrapped ETH. It's not going to approve for max. But there are other websites out of convenience. Maybe Pateus does this, I think. Sorry if I get that wrong, but you can look when you're clicking these buttons and you're approving to spend, and you can see, oh, there it is. It's asking for approval for max, and you can turn it down. You can only approve the amount that you're willing to risk on that certain website. And certainly people can go to revoke.cash now or move the coins that they had in an affected wallet to a different wallet to avoid potentially any more loss if people haven't been drained for everything that they can be drained for. But yeah, does that make sense to you guys? This idea of not doing an unlimited approval when you're interacting with a website?
Yeah. And disconnecting and using revoke.cash and disconnecting from shit that you're not using anymore. It's it's good crypto hygiene, right? It's you should be not staying connected to anything. Even if you think about it, even the IPFS links, it's the safest way is to download Pulse Chain and the bridge and things like that and run your own instance of it and keep it updated. But there's no guarantee that those links themselves could not be, something could happen that's sketchy and it's not sending you where you think you're being sent. So it's like, best even with those, like I don't stay connected to anything. Like, I mean, anytime I'm doing anything, it's like, yeah, is it a few more clicks when I go back to do a thing again? Sure. But I disconnect from everything once I'm done using it. And I never do the like maximum, approval. And what is it? Revoke.cash, right, Matty? That you can check and see what your wallets are connected to.
That's the website. Yep.
That's the website. Yeah. So that is something that's good in case you like think that maybe you missed something. Like, oh, wait a minute, did I connect to something and forgot to disconnect, or I'm using a different computer or a different, I'm using Rabby instead of MetaMask. So it's like I'm not showing that I'm connected on this, but maybe I connected that wallet via that. So yeah, something like revoke.catch to just check the actual addresses that you're connected from, and then act accordingly is good crypto hygiene. And then something I posted in the chat there in response to kind of the whole thing about we've got like another rug pull, if it's Gunther, if it's Pulse Latina, if it's FOMO Sapien coming back around for another go at, because I mean I think he got away with about $500,000 as well, or she, whatever. At the end of the day, you are responsible for what you click on, right? It's like, it's you. I mean, you're the last line of defense. It's like, that's where I get a little frustrated with too much effort or too much concern being placed on, FUD, like fake founders or, rug pullers or whatever. But it's like, you know what? If you didn't buy the shit, if you didn't interact with the shit, if you didn't connect your wallet to the shit, if you didn't try to go chase pennies in front of freight trains, which I think I heard somewhere once, you would avoid all this, right? And it's real easy to be like, man, that guy, oh, that girl, oh, that whatever. It's like, where's your responsibility in this? It's DeFi. It's your responsibility at the end of the day. Is it fun to have a big bad wolf to like point at? Sure. Is Gunther, would I consider Gunther a friend? I would, and I hate that he's getting lumped into this. And I literally sent him a text like, dude, please tell me that you're not involved. So we'll see
there
if he messages me back. But
there were two individuals who lost 40K that we know of in this, and then we can see on chain, several hundreds of thousands of dollars. Whoever
like
created the scam did do an illegal act of fraud and theft and all that kind of stuff. I do agree with you that at the end of the day, we are, the individual is the last line of defense. And I think that this was a particularly well-crafted scam because it was planted over weeks or months. It involved yield farming, which is something that people are better in. There is more of an incentive to get in early and to be in there in the first 6 hours. And this is the price you pay is when, especially probably the biggest giveaway would have been that it was offering only single-sided staking, which should not be really that valuable and should be always like critically thought about. And so we were doing a Twitter Spaces. I jumped in on for the past couple hours, like discussing this. So I got to hear a lot of different opinions on it and a lot of people who knew more than I did about it. And I thought that one of the most interesting things that was brought up is this idea of like, hey, men in crypto need to be careful of women taking advantage of them just because it's a pretty face. And then there was this other perspective that we need to welcome more people into Pulse Chain and we need to get more builders. And so I think that this particular scam was well crafted because there were probably a lot of people that were supporting this Pulse Latina actor because they want to see more people join Pulse Chain who are new, who are builders, who are women. And we do have a lot of really awesome women and builders and people in Pulse Chain already, even if our price isn't off the charts yet. So I think that this whole like experience for me, the takeaway is that we should be accepting of people on the basis of their good ideas, not just on whether they have a pretty profile picture or not. And that's a good. And so in this case, it would have been, don't get involved in a brand new farm from somebody who's only posted 2 videos. over 3 months or whatever. But this was a tough one, I think, for some people to avoid.
So did her farm like did they say it was giving out like some kind of post Latina incentive coin?
So I heard that there was somebody on the Twitter Spaces who had earned yield on the farm, had taken the tokens and dumped them before it rugged 99%. But because they had approved infinite and they swapped into something that they provided for, all of their gains were taken from them. So let's say, they were farming ink, they got the Pulse Latina token, they sold it for ink before it crashed, but then all of their ink was taken because they had approved infinite on the farm. And so even people who got out didn't get out in that sense.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, hey, we got Havid in the chat. Shout out to you. She's an underappreciated member of the crypto Hex and Pulsion community that has absolutely really contributed a lot and never scammed anybody. And so I'm very appreciative of her.
Well, I hope that if I see this scam in the future again, and if I try to like warn people, I hope I'm not called a Captain Save a Pleb.
That's right.
Or Sir Simple-Lot.
Well, it was.
Quit
I think
speaking out, Bruce.
Well, so like people were calling her not a real person or like a man, but then she was posting videos of the same actor. And so, yeah, I think it was really hard for people, again, who were on the side of, we want more people, we want more builders on Pulse Chain.
We want more marketers.
There were simps too, but I think everybody benefits from beautiful women talking about Pulse Chain, from people with good ideas talking about Pulse Chain. And so I think that it's kind of a nuanced thing that we need to be critical of people's ideas. And we have examples of people who have been here for years now. And so we should trust those people much more and be very, very critical of where we connect our wallets, right? That's the big difference between accepting somebody to encourage them to make more content or to build something versus, just shunning them because they're women or not, or like not encouraging them to build, but we just wouldn't connect our wallets.
Yep. And then something else too is like, I was just thinking of Zach XBT, it's like, it seems like, this would be an easy one for him to unravel pretty quickly.
He doesn't do alt chains.
Oh, he doesn't, Drat. But yeah, but it seems like anyone that would really want to, that had the skills. I mean, Silver the Antidote could probably do the tracking back to where they're ultimately going back to fiat, because most things are KYC'd. So if they're sloppy about it in that regard, they could be found. Also, with face recognition technology, I don't think it would be too hard to track that girl down. And you don't think that she's going to roll over quickly and give any information she has to the FBI or whomever would be, engaged at that point. I mean, it's a terrible situation, certainly. Of course, you can protect yourself from these things by not clicking on stupid shit. It is a little murky because, you do want to support new people that are coming in that look like they want to support the things we like. But, you have to be wary. I mean, if they're around even for a year, like FOMO Sapien, I think had been around since the beginning. And, and he turned rogue. And took people for a lot of money. So it's like, you never can tell. But as soon as somebody's trying to ask you to like, hey, come do my thing, I mean, that should be red flags immediately. And you should be doubly diligent to like do your homework and make sure that things are safe. And also it's like, are you going to, it's the classic con. It's like it's the Nigerian prince scam, right? It's like, what is it that gets those people in trouble? Their own greed. They're like, oh, wait, it's like, okay, I can profit from this thing too by doing X, Y, and Z. So, so when you see these huge returns on yield farming and stuff, and especially like Matty said, that's typically true. If you're in early, you do a little better for those few days. until the rates drop to a more reasonable level. You know, is it really worth risking your whole bag or even any significant amount of money to chase that little bit of yield that typically lasts for maybe a week? You know, maybe. You know, sometimes it's days and that yield comes down considerably. So it doesn't hurt. It's just like new hardware wallets. You know, it's like, do you really want to chance it, or do you want something that's tried and true like Trezor, that's been around forever, and you know, and you can rely on? Do you want to take chances on? You know, I've always been an early adopter in tech, but when it comes to crypto, I'm a wait and see guy. You know, it's like I'm not trying to rush out and be the first to anything necessarily, because it's like that's where the risk just outpaces the reward, in my opinion. So be careful.
Get a hardware wallet today. I just dropped my link in the description below.
Yep. Yep. But yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So while we're already on this education kick, let's go ahead and educate people about this one comment here. People are saying that Matty coin rugged. So it's funny. I was just looking at Matty token yesterday on Dex Screener, and wouldn't you know, there's more liquidity there compared to the circulating supply as a percentage terms than almost any other coin I can find on any chain. So it's hilarious to me, but also a beautiful learning opportunity for all the haters and anybody else who's really not sure or not educated. For you, what you can do is you can go to dexscreener.com and you can type in Matty and you can find the highest liquidity pair. And you can see that there's 60K of liquidity there. And compared to the total outstanding number of Matty tokens and the Matty price, which is $1.50, $1.60, somewhere in there, you can tell that really the market cap is real of the circulating coins is really only about 150K. And so to have over a third of the circulating supply in liquidity, I don't even know if that is what you would want, or if you would want less liquidity than that, right? Because in order for something to go up, it needs to have lower liquidity. But then you want people to be able to cash out, so you want more liquidity. And so I really think that that could be a lesson to everybody. You know, I was pretty upfront about the fact that it wouldn't go above $20 because there's a V3 sell wall there to make it a meme about like a $20 denominated stablecoin. So yeah, I just, it doesn't bother me when people accuse me of things I didn't do. If you want to know what happened to the rest of the liquidity, you can go look on chain. And it's all there. So, you know, if you want to accuse somebody of rugging, I think you're going to have to do a little bit better than this token has more liquidity than Hedron. This token has more liquidity than the loan token. This, you know, it's like, and then if we look at, and that's just a raw number. That's not even the percentage of circulating tokens. I mean, you know, there are lots of other tokens that are well known in our space that are well respected that have, I mean, really it's normally between 1% and 5% of the circulating supply is in liquidity. And in this case, you've got over 30%. So, you know, like apparently you don't know what a rug is. And that's part of the problem of what's allowing people to scam others, is because you lose the signal to the noise. And if everybody is a scammer on Pulse Chain, even people who obviously provably on chain have not taken anything out, then people are going to get confused and the word becomes meaningless. This is another thing that people were talking about in the 2-hour Twitter spaces today, is like the definition of what a scam is. We need to be very precise, because if not, then it's going to lose its meaning, and then people are going to keep losing money to real scams.
I came up with the term that's called, I call it Schrodinger scam, where everything is simultaneously is and is not a scam until it's proven to be a scam. So like Pulse Latina, there was nothing scammy about her for like the longest time, right? Like she was a completely legit person, and then the second she scammed, that's when she flipped. That's when we opened up the box, right? Oh, scammer. So there's the things about, like, the Tang gang could be running perfectly legitimate coins, and then if one of them one day were to just snap, it could become suddenly a scam. So
Yeah, and
there's
so
also
so
that.
somebody's saying like Matty token's down 92% from the all-time high. First of all, no, it's not. The all-time high was over 10. It was $10.5. So being at $1.50, that's down what 85%. And if I never sold a Matty token, then how did it go that high and go that low is because of traders, right? And if the liquidity wasn't set so high from the beginning at $88,000 to start off, then that impulse would have pushed against itself like we see with all these other coins. So it would have gone up to $100 and then gone down to $1, or $1.50 or whatever. And so you'd be down 99% instead of 85%. So the fact that so much liquidity was provided helped to dilute the impulse of people getting a bad deal. Traders would have extracted more money from the ecosystem if the liquidity had been lower. And so this is a very important thing for us to be able to understand is liquidity is very relevant. It tells you what the price can and can't do. And people would be down much worse due to themselves by having to buy in the first impulse, having to buy in the first day. There were people that got a 10x on the first day. Did you want them to get more? There are people that, yeah, people bought the top, but thank God they didn't buy it $100.
And, back to kind of our point earlier, as far as do your own research, the blockchain being what it is. The reason I don't, I'm not saying a whole lot on the Matty thing is like, it's on chain, bro. It's like, it's pretty apparent that like everything that Matty said is on point and like completely accurate. It's like, if I'm not gonna take you down the path myself, but it's like, I looked and it's not complicated. Like you can see where the liquidity even came from originally, right? And
Yep.
and where the PulseX was acquired to be the other side of the liquidity for the Matty token. So when I see comments like that, it's obvious that the person has literally they're either trolling and just like trying to get a rise out of Matty, or they just haven't done the research and are doing what 95% of people I think do on Twitter, which and socials in general, which is they jump to conclusions without really knowing what they're talking about. So that's bad because then that increases the noise to the signal. So then you can't really differentiate between something, because then everything's a scam or everything's a rug, and then you're left with no guideposts, right? And then you're just left to kind of guess, like, okay, well, Pulse Latina has been around for a long time, seems like a good deal. I see this person follows her, and this person engages with her tweets, and hell, that person was in the Twitter space. That person's also on the Telegram. Must be okay. I guess I'll click and click and click, and then it's like, oh, I got rugged. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, what the fuck, people? It's like, just this is, they say Hex is an IQ test. I think crypto is an IQ test. And like when you see stuff like that, I mean, not to just totally dog the guy out that made the comment, but it's like, come on, like try a little harder. I mean, like if you have specific questions about things that you're seeing on chain, I'm sure Matty would address it. I haven't seen anything suspect. It seems all very transparent. As to what he's doing, and it's an ongoing project. I mean, there's other things that he, might have up there.
There are no promises, no expectations. It's not an investment. Right. You get nothing. Right. And that's all how can it be more clear?
A different thing.
I don't know. I don't know how it could be more clear. Go look on chain.
Sacrifice.
Right. Ta-da.
Go look on chain. So
so that can be. There's reason that there's that, and there's reasons for that narrative. Which also, if you've been in crypto long enough, you should understand the reasons for him speaking about it in the way that he does. So again, do your own research. Educate yourself. Shit's on chain. you know, and you know, no expectations, no promises, all that stuff are accurate, but they're also, it's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason. Richard uses that terminology and is very careful with this language. The same with Matty and other people that have done sacrifices.
Here's a cool question. Matty, why can't we lock Matty token in time pays me? We're experimenting with doing airdrops of 1/100 millionth of a Matty token. And so we turned off the whitelist to remove it just to see how that would go, basically as an experiment. And so if somebody does want to use the time pays me contract with the Matty token, you would have to know how to go around the front end by using like pulse scan to run to have the it's basically like using Etherscan to run the contract functions without the front end. So that's really for more advanced users. It might be something that we add in the future, the ability to take Matty token out of time pays me. But for now, we had airdropped it to people, and so it's not whitelisted.
Guys, I've been bummed out this entire show so far. I got some bullish, positive news. If you guys would like to hear it.
Yes, please.
So I want to make one more point because I think it's very telling of like where we are now in crypto. And it's like I used to be doing these Twitter Spaces speaking opportunities, and they, you know, the top influencers in the crypto world, you know, they would be having paid promotions on there. But the more that I've investigated into those things, the more that I realized that a lot of them are real rug pulls, are real scams, where the liquidity goes to zero, where the token goes to zero, and then they relaunch something new, and that goes to zero. And so it's like it's really important. And we haven't gotten to the ink thesis yet, which is I think going to be really bullish and important. But that's all just to say, again, if we aren't telling the truth about what a real scam is versus just normal crypto, Bitcoin, Hex, Ethereum, they've all done corrections of 90%, 95%. So, you know, if we can't tell the difference between what's a real scam and what's a hollow accusation, then it's really not going to help people to become wealthy and independent from crypto, and then to maintain that, to hold on to it. So, there are lots of like ways to protect yourself. One way is to have a hardware wallet. One way is to use time pays me. One way is to just not connect your wallet to things. Cool.
Moving on. Moving on. Kraken.
Right.
Can we talk about Kraken?
Wait,
Yes.
I was gonna have my bullish moment.
Yeah, do it.
Brisology.
Or do you want to talk about Kraken?
Change the moon.
I
Change
thought
the
Kraken
moon.
might be involved in your bullish moment.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. I noticed something, and I'm a big noticer. I have my notes for noticing.
Whoa. You got your private seat on there?
Pretty much. But all right, and this might be a little bit of a spicy opinion, but I mean, I don't think so. I think it's pretty normal. Everyone's gonna love it. So basically, we had the Trump and Biden debate, right? What I noticed is that immediately after it was over, you know, cryptos and everything started pumping up. And what I saw was everyone thinks that Trump is gonna basically win this debate. Everyone who saw that debate was like, Biden does not look good. Everyone started getting really bullish on Trump, and all of a sudden the next day we saw a big pump in crypto. Now, I believe that if Trump becomes the president in November, that could really line everything up. Everything's lining up from my noticing. Like I said, Hex took 1.5 years before it started like really pumping. And so I'm kind of thinking Pulse Chain might do something very similar where it takes exactly 1.5 years before it really starts pumping up. That's really the great shakeout, I believe. And if that 1.5 years from the Pulse Chain launch, well, it lines up exactly with November with the presidential debate. And if Trump becomes president, I believe the whole crypto market's going to start pumping, and I believe our stuff is really going to start pumping with it as well. So that's the bullish alpha that I've seen. I think November, especially if Trump gets elected, I think we could see a really good winter for price action in a positive way.
That sounds great.
1.5 years.
What
The
I would
whole
like to
market's
see,
going to start pumping.
I would like to see both candidates endorse crypto and approve it, because that would kind of like set us free from this whole like, well, we only win if one side wins. And so we'll see. But I will be at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville later this month, and Trump will be speaking there. So
Well, just so everyone can kind of understand like how a little bit of our government works, is that the president cannot tell the FBI or the CIA or anyone what to actually do. The president can't go, hey, I want you to go after that group of people right there. They just can't do it. All they can do is hire and fire people that align with their beliefs. And Biden could have at any time fired Gensler and replaced him, because that's the president's job, is to hire and
correct.
fire people at the head of these agencies that will kind of do their bidding. So Gensler, Biden could have fired him at any time.
Correct.
And Gensler is just kind of on a rampage. But
Yeah.
so
that's how he would prove it. He would immediately tomorrow wake up and fire Gensler, ask Congress to pass laws that make it clear what's legal and what's not in crypto. Is that asking too much?
It is. It is, because it's just not going to happen. It's not. I mean, he's had how long to make that pivot? And we even saw like the baby pivot when Trump got so much support around his pro crypto statements, and then quickly, they turned on their heel in regard to the ETH ETFs. So, it's. I don't know. It's the devil versus the devil you don't. The interesting part in this election is we kind of know both devils, right? And it's like, if you want to, I try to put personal things aside. It's like and I hate that the reality is in my. I think I went over this with my fiance the other day, that I've been through 9 presidential elections, and without fail, all of them have been a situation where you have to hold your nose and pull the lever and vote for the lesser of two evils. It is a flawed system. I hate that we are still a two-party system. I hate their electoral college thing. I think Richard Hart nailed it when he was talking about like a ratio-based. I forget how he'd put it, but it was basically like a ranked type voting system, to where it's like it's a national vote, right? It's a national election, and then it's easy. It's like you look at it that way. It's like
I think it was something like you get 100 points.
Well,
you
and
get 100 points.
Yeah.
And you're like, I want to give 50 points to this guy, and I'm going to give like 20 points to the next guy, and I'll give like 10 points to this guy just in case.
Yeah, I think what I remember was something along the lines of like, you can pick your first, second, and third. Like, who do I prefer? Who would I like if that guy can't get it? And who's like my third option? And then you can have all three. And then based on that, that's how you kind of calculate who the winner is. So you just you're not just like one and done. Like, you still have a voice in some regard if like the number one guy is just absolutely mopped. or your number one choice is absolutely mopped, you still have some say in the overall opinion of the nation as far as choosing its leader. And as far as like crypto, it's like at this point it's obvious. It's like we have one choice. You know, there's one choice on the ballot for pro crypto. And as much as you may not like him for other reasons, I would encourage people to think back over what their lives have been like the previous 4 years and the 4 years before that, before COVID. You know, my experience was that, you know, as far as for the country and for the GDP and you know, for the just our standing internationally, and what was really surprising to me is friends of mine overseas that were really vocal about how much that they liked how the world was with Trump in power, even though they might not like him personally. You know, so that was kind of shocking to me because it's like, you know, and I voted for Obama twice, just to be clear. You know, I thought for sure with the way the media spun it and stuff that Obama was beloved around the planet. But that is not the case because, you know, people in foreign countries, it's like they're looking at how U.S. policy affects them. And, you know, with increased drone strikes and all the rest, I mean, we could go on and on about this stuff, but it's, you know, I'll save that for like a rags to riches stream or something. But it's like,
Yeah.
you know, but the point is, as far as crypto is concerned, at this point, yeah, would it be great if like there was a pivot from the left that said, yeah, we're pro crypto too? And that's what's surprising to me, really, if you think about it. It's like if you just had to look at left, right, as far as like ideologies. Wouldn't you think the left would be more free speech, more pro crypto, more personal rights than the right? So that's what's kind of like everything's upside down world now, that the right is kind of having to champion those causes. And I think it's because everything has just shifted so far left that now the Republicans of today are kind of like your moderate Democrats of like the 90s.
I think the issue with the Democrats hating crypto for the most part is that they've been told it's for tax evaders and tax evasion. Yeah. And the leftists, they like taxes. I mean, there was that one video of the guy going out, you know why I like paying taxes? Because it educates stupid people. I hate living around stupid people, so I love paying taxes, and you should love paying taxes too. And so I think they look at crypto as like a tax evasion tool, and now they all hate it. But one of the point also, I just want to mention that there was a what's it called, a fundraiser last month for Trump in San Francisco, and I had Shamoth. How do you pronounce his last name?
Polyhapatia.
And they raised like $13 million for Trump. And
then they had him on their podcast.
Did they?
The All-In podcast.
Nice. I didn't know about that.
Just recently, like a week.
It was a good one. I listened to it all.
And so, like I said, I think if Trump is elected, I think we could see a really crazy winter. But I don't think that's even going to be at the blow off top. I still think the blow off top is still a year away. But it could be even crazier than.
But this time it's going to be different.
We could imagine. So all I'm saying, guys, is hold on tight. We're almost there. You know, it's still a year away, but this winter could be really great for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, my big thing is just like, don't fumble your bag like this close to the finish line. I mean, we've come so far, and it's been a slog, you know. It's like, I'm not going to lie that this has been stressful. It feels longer and worse than the last one for some reason to me. And I think it's because, you know, our memories are such that we kind of will gloss over bad experiences of the past and like kind of put on some rose-colored glasses, and then all of a sudden it's like we're in this thing again, and it's like we don't remember, like we've kind of been through it, you know, because it feels endless and it just feels like it's never going to get better. But it's like we are definitely closer to the end of the bear than the beginning, right? I think everyone could agree to that. And, if we're going to pump in the spring, if it's going to be late summer, and be a year out, or maybe it's drags on, it's not until like the following winter, it's hard to say. I mean, I've seen predictions all over the place. If you're just going by a straight up 4-year cycle, Bitcoin topped in April of 21 and again in November of 21. Hex topped right in the middle of that in September of 21. So 4 years out from all of those numbers are April of 25, September of 25, and November of 25. All those are in 25, but they're pretty spread out. So, just make a plan of what you want to do. Just like when you're DCAing in, like with all, people love to shit on TA in general and love to take shots at me for it. But it's like, it's educated DCAing, right? Like where it looks like maybe is a little better buying opportunity than others. Matty has a super simple one, which is he just doesn't buy on green candle days. He buys on red candle days. It's super simple, but that's not a bad one. I mean, if you're buying green candles, it's good training. Absolutely. It really helps realign your brain. It's like, and it's a good lesson for people to implement, if you're feeling itchy on the buy button on a green candle day, especially now, because it's like, could things take off? Yeah. Is it a situation where, you could miss a 2x? Maybe, but reality is that, we're a ways off from that crazy run-ups like that. So just be cautious, educate yourself, make a plan, and don't fumble your bag so close to the finish line. Like don't be clicking weird shit. Don't be connecting to things. The pennies in front of freight trains has never been more true than now. And also these are at like low prices. So I mean, let's say, oh man, it's like, darn it, I lost $1,000 worth of hex. Yeah, but do you know how much hex that is now? That's a lot, And it's like if we get back to the previous all-time highs, that $1,000 is like, $500,000, right? Or like whatever. I can't do math in my head right now. But yeah, so it's like you might want to say like, oh, it's like I just watched an old stream with good nature.
We call him bad texture.
Bad texture. That guy and Richard from way back, right? And it was really interesting how, Richard was just roasting him, like how upset he was with how this guy was leading people astray. And they, the charts will show you, it's like it wrecked a lot of people. And I think it even wrecked him, quite frankly. And, I don't know a lot about that situation. I wasn't as active on socials at the time it was happening. But looking back and seeing that, it was like, yeah, it's like, I mean, talk about a guy that was passionate for his community. I mean, that's Richard. And I think we'll continue to see more of that. I mean, right now he's fighting for our rights against the SEC, not spending a small amount of his own money to fight these allegations, and hopefully we'll see the fruits of that before long, and he'll return to streaming, which I think the community is long overdue for that that soothing, calming influence of Richard live streams to kind of get people shaken out of their bad habits. It's we need a little Richard tough love on stream, I think, as a community.
But until then, you have us.
Indeed, we're trying. we're trying, to like fight the good fight and educate people and keep them out of trouble. And it's easy, man. It's like, I mean, when you've been in a bear as long as you have, and it feels, and you listen too much to what's on socials, you can get really discouraged. And I mean, like if you look back at the timeline on the good texture thing I was referring to, it's like that was like May of 2020. That was literally around the time of the all-time lows in hex. And it's arguably like part of the reason we went that low was because of how many people cheated to follow what he was advocating at the time. And effectively,
yeah, he almost shook me out.
Yeah. Oh, really? Damn.
Yeah. All right. I can tell you this.
Okay.
Yeah, there were tons of things that like almost wrecked me early on in hex. One was bad texture, making the argument that Richard wants to live forever, so why wouldn't he just like rug the community to spend all the money? This is before hex ever pumped to any significant degree. So it's like, oh, I mean, Richard does want to live forever, so like maybe this guy is telling the truth. And that was like when I had first found the first community stream I ever found was the Hex Shrimp Farm. And Hexologists and Crypto Coffee and everybody were like, yeah, it's cool, try it out. So I did, and like that's probably the biggest rug pull that's ever happened in Hex history, other
The
than like
shrimp.
hacks.
I don't even remember that one.
Oh, dude, yeah, don't go
No.
there. But yeah, it was a shrimp farm,
Yikes.
and yeah,
Because I
Brisology
remember,
remembers.
I remember Hexy and then the ample bullshit, but it's like,
I remember the hex shrimp. I never got involved with it. The only person I saw really getting involved with it was Crypto Coffee. And it was just
Mm.
something about like you had to pop all these like little bubbles on the app. I don't know.
No, it was like your shrimp would multiply if
hmm.
you put in your hex. Johnny remembers, but people are saying that there were other scams that were bigger. That makes sense because I stopped like paying attention to stuff that wasn't made by Richard. But it was like the first time I found that, like literally the first time I found the community, and I'm like, there's other
Wait,
people that
what?
like hacks other
And that,
than me and Richard. What? And I'm just like a YouTube viewer at this time, and I'm like, oh, I want to do what those guys are doing.
yeah, yeah.
Luckily, it was only a couple $100 that I put in there, but that was back when, a couple $100 could buy you, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of hacks.
Yep.
Did you
It's
guys see the tweet about the influencers getting paid by Polkadot
Polkadot.
or by a company through Polkadot?
I did not.
Yeah, so Polkadot spent like $500,000
It
in
was like
like
quarter
6
million,
months.
287,000
In
was
6
on that
months.
one invoice. But I heard they spent over 5 million just in the first half of this year.
No. It was way more than that. Because they're gonna run out of money in their treasury in like less than 2 years.
I
All
saw a post
because
saying they
yeah,
spent 37 million in total, I think.
I'm
And it
looking
was
for
like
it.
just 5 million was in the first 6 months of 2024. That's what I
But
saw.
basically, they're
But
gonna run out of money, and nobody's heard of them on Twitter, which is hilarious because they've been giving all their money to like fake advertisers and people who are like well respected in the crypto space because they're just like paid shills.
yep. Crypto Lark, Crypto Windio. There's a
Yep.
bunch
Yeah,
of
it's crazy.
people
I
on
keep
there.
thinking of that scene from what was that movie, 1918? And I think it was like, I think the whole movie was one continuous shot, or they made it look like one continuous shot. But it's like, where he's just running and like pretty much everybody around him is just dying. And he's like the one guy that's like not getting shot somehow. It's like, that's what I feel like Hex is in a way. It's like there's been so many attacks, from the beginning, in various ways. And it's like, man, for those that have endured, God bless you,
They
man. Because it's like
wonder
that's a
why I'm such
yeah.
an RH Maxi. And then we got the Pulse Latina farm. Everyone fell for the big booty Latina.
Well, I mean,
Not everybody, but
I don't know. Well, and you know
most y'all.
what's sad to me is like people like HVid, who I saw in the chat there, has been just so diligent with trying to educate people and be a positive force in regard to what the capabilities of Hex and Pulse Chain could be going forward, and all the hatefulness that she's caught. And it's like, I get it, she gets drawn into the fight and can fight fire with fire a little bit, and I can appreciate that. I've done that myself sometimes. You get a little pissed off when people are being rude to you, and you end up being rude back. And but it's so frustrating. You see people like that like have never shown any indication that they're gonna harm the community in any way or do anything for themselves to benefit themselves at our expense. And then lo and behold, you
And
get others that come in that do what we witnessed, and people fell victim to that. So it's once again, it's just one of those things where people got to be careful about who you support and be aware. Like if they're pivoting to a thing all of a sudden that's like, hey, come over here and basically give me access to your wallet. It's
remember
like
Schrodinger's scam.
yeah,
Everyone is not
stranger
a
danger.
scammer until they are a scammer.
Right.
yeah, and Havid has put in years of making quality content
Yeah,
and showing
absolutely.
herself to be a holder and a staker and a believer. So
Yep.
yeah, being one of the top content creators, I am always shocked when people give her shit, and she deserves like a lot more positive feedback.
Yep. And she's a young person too, you know. I mean, she's in her early 20s, so it's like, you know, imagine yourself at that age. It's like, you know, could you handle all that, you know, attention and sometimes negative attention at that age online? It's a lot, man. It's like it is not an easy thing to navigate. Yeah. So just be kind, you know, and it's pretty obvious at this point who the real ones are.
Right.
So, you know, be supportive of those that are actually trying to be out there and educate and pump your bags, and maybe take a lesson from them as opposed to like throwing shade. That would be my 2 cents on that. So Polkadot spent 37 million in outreaching during the first half of 24, targeting new users, developers, and businesses. So Polkadot as a company, they're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, but you know,
So,
Hex and Pulse Chain don't have a company. We do it all
Yeah.
organically, and we do it better than they do for 37 million. So what
Yeah.
does that tell you?
So
Right.
I've
4.4
never
million on
really
this.
actually looked into Polkadot. I just never really cared to. Like, who's the people behind building it? Does anyone actually know?
Yeah. It's Polkadot was made by Gavin Wood, who like helped make Ethereum. So he was one of like the 7 guys that founded Ethereum. Then they all started their own cryptos. So Vitalik, you know, stuck with Ethereum, but then Charles Hoskinson, who helped found Ethereum, he created Cardano, and then the Wood guy, Gavin
Stellar
Wood,
Lumens.
he's the one who got hacked, and they didn't roll back the chain for him. That's how you would have heard of him. So Gavin Wood got hacked on Ethereum. They didn't roll the chain back for him, and that Richard always points to that as like, well, if they would have rolled back the chain for anybody, it would have been Gavin Wood because he was the biggest insider. And then he created Polkadot, which you know, was created last cycle and had a little run up, but it's basically been a ghost chain this time around, and that's what everybody's remarking on, is that there were so many millions of dollars of paid advertising, but a few people on Twitter really hear about or think about Polkadot, which tells you that they're getting scammed with their advertising dollars.
The scammers are always the ones that can afford advertising, which is why I don't get paid.
But it hits different, and when you have something organic and people are time locked for a long period of time, then you get a much more organic thing that people are going to probably end up wanting in the end. If they ever figure out what true crypto is, they're going to figure out it's us.
Yeah, you know, we're super early, and like I said, I think it's great that crypto is becoming a presidential topic, because I'm telling you guys, after this election, and especially if Trump gets elected with his pro crypto stance, and he's going to protect our crypto from Elizabeth Warren, our Bitcoin is what he said. This will really put this on a national level, and I think we're going to see a big wave of adoption in the
Let's
next,
go.
especially in the next 5 years, as this stuff really ramps up and the dollar ramps down, as in collapsing.
This time ain't different.
You know, I mean,
Crypto to the moon.
geez. Well, you know, what if it just keeps going though? We're all gonna be like I said, in November, it could like really run up, and we're all gonna be like, this time is different, guys. It's just gonna keep going. The masses are here, and
Yeah.
then it's probably gonna take a big old dump in January, February, and then people are gonna get shaken out, like, oh crap, I should have took profits, and they'll
Yep.
probably start selling, and then it's probably going to go back up again in spring. I don't know. And then I think it's probably
that's
going
why
to.
people need to have a plan before all this starts happening. Cause it's like, I mean, Briz, it's like it gets so heady. Like you see these, huge, like 10, 20% days, like every day, like bam, 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 bam. And you're just like, holy smokes, and the FOMO is real. And, if you got any dry powder left, you're going to start throwing in and you're going to help create that blow off. Right. And then, it starts coming back down and then you're done, right? You round tripped it essentially in that little pump there because you didn't keep any on the sidelines to buy when it pulls back, or you didn't make a plan to properly DCA out if you want to, if you're in a position where you want to start taking some profit or take some money off the table. So, it's best to kind of, I mean, you've had plenty of time, but it's like, I think you still got a little time to come up with a plan and then just, do your best to stick to that plan. Or even have like gradations of it. It's like, okay, this is what I'm planning to do. But like, if I'm really feeling bullish, it's like I'm not right, and I'm not ready to like, give up. Hey, Crispy's back. It's like if I'm, Crispy talks about this all the time about, having a plan, and it's like, but maybe gradations of it, is my point. Is like, maybe you have your ultimate plan of like, hey, I'm going to take this much off the table if things start going crazy. But if I'm feeling really bullish, then I'm okay if I kind of like don't take that much off the table because it's like I think it might keep going, and then that way it's not an all or none proposition for you. So like, maybe have levels to it, but whatever the case, come up with a plan. But Crispy, good to see you back, man. How was the European vacation?
Your
It was
hair,
good.
you look great. You looks like you got a haircut. Looks like you got a nice little beard trim.
Hey, look good.
Looking good for you, Briz. Baby. How you guys doing? All right?
We're doing all right. We're hanging in there, man. We're just talking about, crypto.
We all got rugged by Pulse Latina.
No, not all of us, because not all of us went in. Right?
No, sir. No, sir.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that quite a bit.
That's crazy.
Something like 400K in crypto.
Well, and then the farming, I guess. I didn't know about that part until Matty brought it up. But I guess there was a farming opportunity, so people, lost even more over there.
Yeah.
By not being able to get their coins back out of the farms, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I don't know enough detail. I just went and looked at the wallets. Yo, Matty.
What's up? Looking good.
What's up, man?
Got Ryan Lopez in the chat.
I saw him out there. Hey, Ryan. Hey, I brought news from the future.
2039.
2039. So are you guys set up yet? I'm thinking that we need to make a campaign, for people to get T-shirts out in 2039.
Why do you want other people to win so hard?
It's no fun getting rich alone.
Well, I guess there's that, but I mean, I like
it's
that.
Lonely at the top.
Yeah, I like the hex, and I like the whole game theory, right? So that's been something I've been talking about for a couple of years at least. Well, so it's the beginning, and so it's like this super opportunity that it's only for those who want to go out 15 years, but it's crazy information. Did you see my Twitter post on that, Matty? Is that what you?
Yeah, I did. We can share it again here so everybody can see it.
Yeah, I can pull it up on the screen too if you want the actual chart. I think Toby and Briz and Matty, you'll get it too. I mean, all the kind of complaining that people do today about all these whales and everything else, right? Well, right now, of course, people have not been staking as much for as long, right? Yeah, it's a little misleading when you look at the average staking length, because that's the average of existing stakes. It's not even the average of the remaining years, right? It's the average of the existing stakes. And so we just have this huge number of people who are not going out Quattro Cinco. And I understand why, right? I mean, but I'm going out Quattro Cinco and a bunch of other people are. I think like 1,600 wallets have on the Pulse chain.
Really?
Something like that. And but there's only 20,000 T-shirts out there, and so I hope that I'll be there to see the day when people are going to be like, "Oh, those goddamn whales! They have all of the yield," and I'm going to be like, "Yeah, we were talking about this."
Most people only have one. How much are those? How many of those are HSIs?
Well, how about this? I'll share with you. And we could pull it up and look at it. So I was thinking, of course, this is crypto. People do what they're going to do, and it's DeFi, right? So you don't have to do anything I say to do, for sure. People make their own decisions. But if you're in Hex and you're thinking about being around for that kind of period of time, this is the kind of stuff that that really can make it or break it right now. So I shared that screen up there, and so I'll go a little bit larger with this and just take a look at what we have for T-shares out there. With a focus mode on this and take a look. So right now, out in 2039, looking at the T-shares for 2039, and I'm doing a little bit of magic here because I'm just looking at the whole year. Right? Remember, stakes do end throughout the year, but currently we have 16 whales, 119 sharks, 525 dolphins, 510 squids, 170 turtles, and an assortment of crabs, shrimps, and shells out there right now. And that's based on about 20,000 T-shares. 20,000 T-shares. And currently a T-share is, I think the last I saw was $192 for a one-day T-share. And so for a Quattro Cinco T-share, it's $64 for one T-share in 2039. So from play the numbers kind of thing, we go look and see what the requirements are right now. One T-share will make you a squid. 2 will make you a dolphin.
What?
And so I think that's a hell of a bet.
Wow.
Now, of course, this is kind of like looking at the numbers and being like, okay, well, how many T-shirts are going to be out there? People will come in later and probably overlay, but right now, what we have is a huge gap, right? We're at something about 9 million T-shirts, and there's only 20,000 out in out Quattro Cinco, and based on what we're seeing, is the numbers have been coming down so fast that and then people are not restaking. We have this like sweet spot. Probably they'll last another year. It depends on how quickly people come back. Where people who come in now and get T-shares will be paying so much less that there'll be this gap, in the numbers. And how will that gap be filled? Right? It's going to be very hard to fill the gap. So the longer people wait on it, the better it gets for the existing miners. So, I'm looking at it. Of course, it's still a sizable investment to become a whale, right? I mean, today, if you just wanted to be a 2039 whale, I don't know, it's $12,000-$13,000 US to swap into that much X. Versus if you want to be a whale, the way things are today, right now, be a whale, it's 600,000. And so when you pair this kind of information up about just how accessible it is at the moment to increase your rank, I think that's really the point. Not so much about being the highest, right? Well, for some people it will be, but it's about increasing your rank over time. This is an opportunity, particularly if you've decided you're already going to be here for the 15 or 30 years. And some people talking about 3 cycles, 45 years.
Yeah.
When you transpose that against potential price appreciation and the cost of T-shares, it's kind of crazy thinking, but I'm almost thinking that if I was wanted to do short-term staking in the future, it might make better sense now to get the T-shares for the $60 in 2039 instead of waiting until the equivalent value is 1 million, which is certainly a possibility out there.
Yeah. I wonder how this compares to like the discount on wrapped T-shirts.
Oh, you mean as far? Yeah, it's kind of an apples and oranges because remember, we are fading now on the Maxi. I forget which year that it ends offhand, but Maxi does end at some point. Of course, Deci ends after 10 years, and so we're a few years into each of those contracts.
Well, Deci's perpetual, Maxi's not.
Yeah, it is. But remember, the next round of DESI will be
At
at
a
a much
higher
higher
rate.
T-share rate. Yeah, yeah. So how that'll all work out, I don't know. But I don't know. For me, this is pretty mind blowing. I'd really like to see people go and stake, and I've seen some response to my campaign. People are going out and staking out there. It's just not moving the number very much.
Well, this has probably got to be a better deal, but somebody would have to do the math than even DESI at a 40% discount, because you're spending an extra 5 years, which is another 33%, and DESI contract has to buy back higher. So it makes sense that this is probably a better deal, because that last third is going to be, because it's basically mimicking compound interest, and you know that the last third is way more than just the first third. It's like exponentially more. So I would guess that the market is truly undervaluing all this that you're talking about. So I'm glad you're bringing it to our attention.
Oh yeah, yeah, no problem.
I got
The way
my
I'm
stakes out there, so I'm pretty happy.
are you a whale? You should be a whale. You don't have to be.
Probably, maybe.
You might be. You might be.
In
I
39?
Yeah. I mean, I got stakes out to 2039, so.
All right.
So I know everybody's condition situation is different. Like Toby and I might be thinking a little bit something than Briz or even Matty. But you go out, that far, and you start thinking about this. What I'm seeing with this group of people now, 1,600 wallets is a lot of wallets. I think. I mean, shit. When I first started with Hex, I thought I was talking to a room full of bots. There were 40 of us or something, in the Telegram room. So 1,600 is pretty high. I'm thinking that there's a group of people who believe in Hex so much that they're only staking Quattro Cinco at this point, whether it's doing it natively or through the HSIs, or going out and doing the Maxi and the Deci. I mean, I've divulged just a number of times. I'm involved in all three of those too. Maybe not as significantly, certainly not as significantly as native Hex staking, but man, it's a heck of a deal. And then to answer your original question, Matty, which I didn't get to, is how many of these are HSIs? So if we take a look at what we have out there, 508 of the 3,380 stakes are HSI stakes, which is that's actually a little higher than normal. HSIs usually account for about around 8-10% of the stakes that get made. But this gives you an idea of what we're looking at. 1,652 individual wallets. And I am counting, the ownership of the HSIs in that. So it does include the HSIs. There's 3,380 stakes that have been made in 2039. 508 of those are HSIs. And we're up another 100 T-shares today, roughly, at 20,614. So pretty crazy. And some people might be like, well, how is it possible we can have so many sharks and dolphins, etc.? It's because the people who are going out long are going out with higher quantities, right? And so, a lot of people wouldn't, though we do have some, they're not going to go out there with just a few thousand Hex. They'll go out with a higher number. And remember, the OA doesn't exist in 2039 in terms of stakes, right? Hasn't made any new stakes. Right. So the training wheels come off when the OA stakes end, and so there's no share of the staking at all for OA out there. So overall, pretty super bullish in my mind.
Yeah.
I just want to say, earlier in the week, I felt like I got rugged. I was like, oh my God, my heart dropped for a minute. Because I went on to the Go Pulse portfolio, and they stopped showing Hex stakes on there for one reason or another, and all my stakes were just gone. I was like, I was like, I know my stakes aren't gone. I know my stakes aren't gone. Because I could see other coins that I knew were inside the same wallet as some of my stakes. So I'm like, those coins are still there.
That's
I
funny.
know my hex stakes are still there. And I checked it on the gohex.com and they were there. But it felt like I got rugged.
Well, a new
Yeah.
version of go.hex.com came out today, and the API outage that affects the community sites will not be resolved soon, but it will be resolved because Alex is syncing his servers.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%.
So
Awesome.
It's
only
actually,
affects the eHex side.
yeah, I kind of look at it as a good event in that we have the opportunity now to decentralize even further with the data. I mean, none of the data is lost; it's all there on the contract. It's just how people access it, in terms of getting to it. And so for like the average user, yeah, we need the front ends to serve that information up. And I heard the same thing. I think Alex from Hedron is actually working on a replacement for the subgraph. For the EHEX. None of this affects Pulse Chain, by the way.
Yeah, something else I noticed during that, because I had the same feeling for a split second. Briz, I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, that's not good. And then, but I always check Staker app, which this is like something I posted out there a while ago, and I just shared in private chat, Matty, Alex's post in regard to what he's doing to help with the situation, and how it's going to be covering ETH as well as Pulse in the future. If you want to check that out, but yeah, so I asked, like, okay, well, wait a minute, how's Staker app still pulling all the staking info? Like, what are they using? And then it's like, oh, StakeHex today is still able to pull staking information for the east side. So what are they using? So it's not like I was wagging my finger, because I think GoPulse is awesome and I think they've done a great job. It's just out of ignorance and curiosity, like, well, how are you still able to see the ETH stakes on these? And even on Hex Scout, you could see the ETH stakes.
Yeah.
Although it was pulling stakes that were ended and showing them as overdue. So it's interesting, like, it would be interesting to know, like, where these are all pulling their information from. But if Alex is coming up with a solution for the ETH and Pulse side, then that's going to help, so many of these third party.
Yeah, I think some of them
applications
were
will run.
pulling from hexstake.today, but that wasn't always being updated. That it was being updated like irregularly.
Got it.
Yeah. Maybe I can shed some light on this for people who
Cool.
I'll put it in my really simple-minded terms for myself. This is how I think of it. If I'm a dev, I can write specific code that goes and gets data through Web3 from the contracts, right? There's a lot of overhead to that, and I've got to maintain it, and I can go get the data directly, right? Subgraph is a service. Think of it as a service that stages data for us. And then, so it's a little bit easier, it's more limber to go get the data. You typically, and there's some cases, but typically people don't use Subgraph for financial type transactions, right? Is that, very specific ones that have to do with price and whatnot, because it lags. It takes time. It's a contract on the internet on Ethereum. It's got to update. When it's out of sync, it takes time to resync. So that's not usually what that's used for. Somebody who's a dev could use better terminology than this. But the Web3 programming gets you more data quickly, better, more efficient, that you can do that kind of check with. And so it's two different methodologies of grabbing data. And there's probably some others that somebody could define. But yeah. So like what I use mostly, not always, is Subgraph. To get data, because I'm displaying data, I'm not making financial decisions with it. While if I'm using an app that I'm going to push the button on, I've got to make sure that I actually have really good data, and that's going to be something that might lean a little heavier on the Web3 type connection.
Yep. Great explanation.
So, hey, my thought on all this is, if you've already fallen down the rabbit hole with us and you're working on Hex and you have a ladder, and of course getting this is long-term strategy is different. It's kind of like what Toby was saying before. Long-term strategy is different than medium short-term, or whether or not you got 50 different strategies. So I definitely would urge people to consider what they're doing this cycle first before they decide on what they're going to do long term. But yeah, what's happening this cycle, what's happening next cycle. But if you are planning to do long-term stuff, then I would say take a look at Hex and get your ticket now. I mean, it makes sense to me to try to do that because share rate's only going up 20% a year. It could be by the time people figure out what I'm talking about, that APY is going to go up, right? It's boil the frog. Right. So what's happening is the frog doesn't know it's getting boiled. By the time they figure it out, it might be 50, 60, 100% more per T-share in terms of Hex. And you would have missed this opportunity. And so, yeah, maybe you don't put your whole bag out there, but maybe get some exposure to it. Because it's, I'm the fudders. If you think about the people who are all talking to us about how nobody's ever going to stake again, it's dead. Okay. Let's assume it's dead. Let's assume it's dead, and we're only going to be adding 20,000, 20,000, T-shares per year, just like we're seeing in 2039, right? And you got another another 10 years at 20,000. What is that? 200,000 T-shares, right? So now you're talking about splitting 90 million Hex a day by 200,000. Right. So if you do the math on that, it's really simple math, right? 90 million divided by 200,000 T-shares. I'm thinking about what might happen after 2039. That gives you a 450 Hex per day payout by the time you get out into that period. And that's
450 Hex per T-share?
Per T-share per day. That's a 64x in the APY. And 64x on the average APY, if we just like rough this thing, we're running about 40%. That would mean that the opportunity here is if that FUD comes true, is that stakes might be averaging 2,000, 3,000% per year. That isn't that won't last, right? Because as soon as it starts gets to be a high enough number, and everybody's going to want to stake again, right? But in the meantime, while they're all looking the other way, everybody's looking left. I'm looking right.
The old Kansas City shuffle.
Yes.
Are you looking up into the right?
Up into the right. Yeah, I mean it's just like a no-brainer because anybody who comes in and tries to get the same number of T-shares you have later, your ROI is just going to outperform them.
Yep.
Right on. Well,
love it.
Thank you for allowing me to talk about Hex.
We love it.
Thank you for the TED
we're
Talk.
all fans here.
Hey, Crispy, I had a question. I was hearing there was a lot of different ways to get the price of Hex to go up. But what do you think the best way to get the price of Hex to go up is?
Best way?
By Hex, right? It's our catchphrase. It's like you want Hex to go up? Buy Hex. Right.
By Hex. Well, I think the other thing, yeah. Well, I guess it's probably not one thing, but I mean it's don't sell it, right?
Yeah, well, yeah,
swap everything because that's the number one thing, right? That's can't get away from that. That's what's going to happen. It's kind of tongue in cheek, guys, right? I mean, obviously, people are going to have to sell sometime. Yeah. But I think retaining it, I think making it more scarce. I think buying more of it, making more scarce. Of course, staking it helps that. Yeah, I think that's a really reasonable conversation to be had to kind of like break down what happened during the last run up because. When you do long-term staking and that strategy, that is not compatible with selling the top. Right. And so people need to understand what their short-term strategy is versus the long-term. I mean, now we can actually act it out. It's like, well, how are you going to feel if you staked them? I mean, how are you going to feel if you had 1 million staked? And you can't get it out and the price goes to 50 cents, which I can't imagine it not going back to at least the all-time high. How are you going to feel about not having access? So you should, make your plans accordingly. But it doesn't invalidate delayed gratification in long time frames. It doesn't. I mean, the long time frame is still there with price appreciation potential and rewards from staking.
There was a guy that became famous other than Greg Schoen for like reporting on the price of Bitcoin. Oh, I've got it here. He was talking about it when it went up to $111, and he was like, "I can't believe it went up that high." You guys will recognize it. This guy.
Oh yeah.
So he held.
I remember that website.
They got a video. What?
Yeah, that website was great because every time it went to the new all-time high, there'd be a bunch of like confetti on the screen.
Really?
Watch.
Okay, well,
I'll probably do it in this video.
this guy bought and he held all the way past $60,000. I guess he round tripped it, so to speak. But you know that's a really good example of somebody holding now, isn't it? And he could have cried every time Bitcoin peaked and then went down, but instead he held, and that's the real all-time high is this cycle.
And I just kind of want to put it out there, round tripping your money. Yeah, it does suck, but it's not like it's the worst thing in the world. Because if you are in a good crypto, it's just going to go higher the next cycle.
Yeah, I think you're right about that potential, right? That's going to be the case. Bruce, I think the big thing for me when we're talking about this, and it's the same thing with, you could go pick this guy apart and be like, oh man, you screwed up so bad, right? Because what you could have done is sold the top and bought the bottom, and then sold the top and bought the bottom, and sold the top and bought the bottom. On paper, when we're thinking about it, that makes perfect sense. Of course you can do that. But guys, life gets in the way. And one of the things that we don't talk about enough is that you are not, when people tell me that, they're not thinking about the risks that are associated with it, right? And and already some people might hear this message and be like, "Oh, you're full of crap," right? I mean, I can sell the top and buy the bottom. The thing is so how come you're here? How come you're not rich already, right? If that's the way it is so simple to do, then you should already be done. But the thing is it's not that simple, right? Because there's risk that we don't identify, whether it's somebody was talking about third party risk or third party counter risk or a counterparty risk, or if you're going to I mean, just a simple active, guys. If you're going to if you're going to sell the top, you show me somebody who can sell the top and really lock down $100,000, $200,000 and hold it. Hold it for a year. Hold it for a year and a half, and not make the mistake of chasing something shiny that rolls by. It's very hard, and that's why that's not the way things happen usually.
The real trick is that after they sell the top, they got to take that money and buy back in at a certain point. And a lot of times once people have sold the top and it starts tanking, they start thinking like, you know what, I made the right decision. That was a crap coin. Let me look for the next best thing. So so my point being is that once you sell, it's pretty hard to buy back into something, especially if it looks like it's just like gonna die,
You got to outperform taxes too.
Well,
yeah, that too.
Yeah, if people are paying attention to that, they might get taxed, right? They might have to do that. I mean, there's and just frankly in life, right? Most of us are kind of screwed up in how we manage stuff. Not everybody's perfect, and so I got $100,000 in the bank. You want to go on vacation. Next thing you know, it's 80,000. And even if it's in crypto, I'll pay it back later. Next thing you know, you can see this in real life. What people do. I mean, how many nothing negative against it. Just saying how many people borrow against their 401k, and never pay it back, right? And that's the end of that, because they're trying to access this money. And so, anyways, those are the types of risks that I mean, life risks that are out there. Where on the other hand, stake and chill is just like set it and you're done. And so right now we have this opportunity, particularly with Hex, where price is pretty low. Prices are pretty, right. We would all agree they're pretty low. T-share rate is the lowest it's ever going to be. If this thing's going to be successful, and of course I think it's going to be successful, there's never a better time than right now to set up a ladder
Or
and then
plant
just
a tree.
and just maintain it. Right, it just makes so much sense, and it's hard. And even as like how I just talked about whales, and people are like, oh yeah, big deal, right? Well, Johnny's making a comment that I think is really important in the chat. Is okay. So how many of you guys out there and ladies have 600K? You're going to drop into Hex right now. How many? No, not very many. Otherwise, we have more whales, right? Where they'd be popping up and growing like little sunflowers, right? But that's not what's happening. And why? Because it's a lot of money, right? For most people, it's a lot of money. And even 10K is a lot of money for a lot of people. So there is another aspect of looking at this Quattro Cinco stuff. $60 don't sound like a lot right now, right? I mean, most people go to dinner, they got to pay $60 a person for dinner, unless you're really on a tighter budget, right? That's about the cost of a decent dinner, right? And so you look at that and you're like, well, so I'm going to wait. Well, when that's $6,000 or $10,000, is that going to get more of them bought or less? Probably less, right? And so it's also, so even while it's a great opportunity now for people to take position, at some point it becomes a barrier to entry, right? Because we get back up to 50 cents and all of a sudden it's $15,000 a t-shirt. Well, that $60 deal is gone, right? And now you're paying $5,000 a t-shirt, for a Quattro Cinco. So, anyways, I think it's a huge opportunity to if you believe in it and you want to do it, to take advantage of this, because it's like it's almost like it's a whole reset of Hex. We're coming up on the first third of Hex's life being complete, of the first third of a Quattro Cinco. It was almost 5 years, guys. My 15 years, some of my 15-year stakes, 5 years have passed already. So I can see that it's a big opportunity.
And just to give a little bit of hopium out there, I just want to say, like, come on, guys. Do you think Richard Hart would launch a product with a 15-year cycle without having a 15-year plan?
Nice.
Come on. He didn't launch this thing just to leave after 3-4 years, right? So
no expectations, but he
no
sure does tweet a lot.
expectations.
So we have a super chat from Spicy Loops, $5. Thanks for the super chat. Where does the fiat go when you buy crypto on a centralized exchange? How does the exchange get the coins, and what does the exchange do with the fiat? Well, there's typically a buyer and a seller, so they're matching orders. So the person who's selling is matching the order of the person who's buying. And to get the crypto, they have to go on chain and buy it, unless they already have an order that matches internally with somebody on Coinbase who's buying and somebody who's selling on Coinbase at the same time. Then they can just settle it internally, and otherwise they have to go on chain. And but they don't. All the centralized exchanges don't do a great job of reporting their total holdings constantly. So that's why it's so important to hold your own keys. Not your keys, not crypto.
I'm just surprised that the centralized exchanges can keep a parity amongst each other of like a singular price.
Yeah, well, they also charge like a 2 to 4% spread on top of the real price that they're able to buy it for, so that allows the price to be volatile, and they can still work with it. They also sometimes like have outages whenever the price is going up or down a lot, so that shows their inability to handle the orders and that kind of thing. Yeah, so like
Freaking Coinbase, we know who you're talking about.
So the fiat, like, it goes to their bank account. It gets wired or whatever to the Coinbase bank account, and then it gets held there or transferred to the person who is selling the crypto. And that's why they want everybody holding USDC on Coinbase, is so that they can earn yield from treasury bills, and to pay out for people, but to have you hold it there instead of cashing it out to your bank, where your bank gets to earn the yield from the government bonds. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
An interesting segue here is that we have the traditional CDs out there, and right now it's always been the case that from an APY perspective, it Hex for a 30-day stake beats a CD hands down, and certainly acquiring Hex at this value, beats it hands down for sure. Because you have the potential for that to go up, the price appreciation.
What only beats it in Hex terms, unless the fiat price of Hex is going up.
Incorrect.
So you can't compare apples and oranges and say like this percentage is better than that because you're earning it in a different currency. And
well, it is true. It is true that the fiat value matters. Currently, at the current price, it beats it. So if the price did not change, did not go up, did not go down of Hex, it beats CDs by quite a bit, right? Only like double. And so as things move along and there's more proof in the system, because we're only, like we said, 5 years in, it's possible, quite possible, that some other people will discover, of course we hope that's the case, that Hex does this. And potentially financial institutions at some point in the future, because the longer something has a track record, I mean, for Christ's sakes, guys, I mean, who thought about staking Ethereum in the past, right? Who really thought that was a great idea when it came out? Well, now you have institutions staking Ethereum. So, yeah, it'll take time, but at some point, it'll become obvious that hey, you can come in for a very short period of time and earn a better reward or yield than you can in the traditional financial market.
The baseline APR for a 1-year stake in Hex is about 9%. I think it's like 8.9%.
Right in that range. Yep.
Yeah, if you stake Hex for 1 whole year.
And there were very few times in the past year where Hex staking outperformed a bank CD because the fiat price of Hex has been going down. And so that's really important to point out, that financial institutions, they might consider this so many years into the future if the OA would listen to Johnny Chaos about creating parity between the two chains, or keep the fiat price of Hex the same, from day to day. That'd be really cool to have more liquidity than like 1/1000th of the market cap or whatever. But
yeah.
Well, my analysis shows that
till then it's good for smaller players.
Yeah, my analysis shows that you're right, Matty. The use case for Hex, ultimate use case, is a staking ladder, much like a CD ladder, and that is one of the ways that stakers beat back that danger, that risk that you're talking about, that the price could go down against you. Because right now, at this current price for a short stake, yes, you would need to keep the price where it is for you to outperform. But if you set up a ladder, and each one would have to be calculated separately, but kind of like a high level. If you had a 15-year ladder, with a reasonable allocation throughout the 15 years, you can withstand up to a half, the price drop into a half, or even 75% over time, because you're earning that much reward.
Yep.
Because you have that much that's out there. It's quite interesting that it works out that way.
Yeah, I'd just also like to say that the liquidity pools for EHEX, the last time I checked it, it was something like $185,000-ish, and for PHEX, it was
I think it's
about
more than that now.
9 million. So it's like, yeah, I believe EHEX will go back to all-time highs. It's just that liquidity pool. I don't know how much money will be in there for people to pull out. So
Oh, sure. I mean, but that's the case with all the stuff, right, Bruce?
yeah,
Because we're gonna be in that situation where if there'll be less liquidity, the less you can pull out. I show on Pulse Chain something around 2.5 million in EHEX liquidity at the moment.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Wow.
but that's against a lot of different pairs, and so it probably matters that they're whether it's hex or EDI, but we have an EDI of about 1 million, right? EHEX EDI, something about 1 million plus. And
Wow.
these aren't exact numbers, but that means there's about 500,000 that's out there. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of different ways to look at it, but that's crypto in general. We already have that kind of problem. The idea that things might not be as liquid because we need to build more users and have more adoption, have more liquidity. And then you compare it, and this is a good point that you made, Briz. In comparison to PHEX, in PHEX with Wrap Pulse, we have 18 million in liquidity. And then there's a variety of other pairs, of smaller amounts that it might be with the stables and whatnot. But that's a very strong liquidity pool. I mean, it's one of the strongest we have. I mean, PulseX, as much as I forget this, like other people do, lots of times I'm like thinking, because we're so focused on the shiny stuff rolling around and chasing all these coins, it's like you turned your pocket upside down. Well, back when we used to have coins, guys, right? It's like all these coins are rolling around, people are chasing them. We kind of look at these things, we're like, oh, this one's a good one. Well, you know what? Yeah, it might be good. I don't know, but it's got $10,000 in liquidity and $1,000 in volume. Meanwhile, you've got a Hex Juggernaut or some of the other RH tokens, with a couple $1 million and doing 1 million in volume a year or a day, excuse me. So I mean, the difference between the power between them is like huge. So, anyways, Hex is a juggernaut for sure.
And when you compare those two numbers also with what the market cap is, then you get a real feel for how many people can cash out.
Yeah, but the objective, our objective, maybe this goes back to Toby's question. Our objective should not be to cash out, right? I mean, yes, of course, we would like to pull value out, but the future of our community is not everybody selling at the top. That is not the future of the community, because number one, even if we all try to do it, you can't do it, right? So it's not happening, right? It becomes, the bigger your bag is, the more realistic that becomes, or not realistic that you can do it, but the more that reality kind of sets in, right? That
like, guys, these cryptos are the money. We should be using the cryptos as money. Quit trying to escape back into fiat land.
Dirty fiat.
yeah, that's kind of that. I've come around to that opinion, Briz. I didn't always think that way, you know. And it's hey, listen, it's a difference between, you got $100 in, that's one thing, right? If you've set up an entire ladder and you're planning for what you're doing with Hex, I mean, we've got hexagons now that are literally not selling Hex. I mean, I know the FUD and I see it. And we all think it's it's everybody. It's not everybody who's doing the selling. The miners are pretty strong-handed, and I do foresee a situation in the future where you just might see Hex just go from one long stake to the next. Particularly with things like Hedron and Com out there, where people are getting additional rewards outside of them.
I want to be like Richard and become a billionaire before I buy my first brand new car.
There you go.
Did you guys see that tweet from Richard?
Good
He
strategy.
was talking about the Mount Gox Bitcoins being released, and he said something along the lines of, "Wouldn't it be nice if some of these bitcoins bought up the cryptos that we liked?" And then it made me think. I'm like, man, I wonder how many bitcoins Richard had on Mount Gox.
Yeah.
When it
How many
collapsed.
of those are his?
Yeah, at least he's getting $450 each.
Yeah, I had
per
never had heard
Bitcoin,
him.
right?
I had never heard that he had anything in Gox. Maybe he did.
I
Maybe he
never
didn't.
heard that either.
You know, but I think it's a good message to get out to people because that value does need to go somewhere.
I mean, he usually doesn't tease about things that aren't true. So,
Well, we have members of our community who were victims in Mt. Gox and have been waiting, and they will receive those tokens, and they're going to have to decide, or not tokens, but coins. They're going to have to decide: are they putting it in to something else? They're going to keep it in there. They're going to sell it. So it'll be quite interesting. I would imagine that anybody who's still around to recover any Bitcoin, and they actually got Bitcoin.
I don't think they're getting their Bitcoin though. They're getting like a dollar value.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
I
what I
think
was
it's only
gonna ask.
$450.
I
Like
think
if
you
you
got
got a
to
whole
clarify.
Bitcoin, they're gonna give you $450
Yeah.
freaking dollars.
I know Seven said that. Maybe we'll get more information tomorrow.
Well,
but
we talked about this on What the Hex Thursday, and Papa, spent a fair amount of time in Japan, and that is the law of the land there. So
So they have to
basically,
pay out in
I thought they were
Japanese
given.
yen.
I thought they were given the choice. They could either take the payment in Bitcoin or dollars.
well, they can take it in Bitcoin, but they're not getting if they lost 5 Bitcoin, they're not getting $300,000 in Bitcoin today.
So it's
they're
a
gonna
much
get-
it's a much smaller.
Yeah,
problem.
they could get it in Bitcoin, but it'll be the $2,500 they have coming according to the law.
It's what Bitcoin was worth at the time.
Right.
And at the time, it was worth like $300.
Right.
I
So,
heard
so
they're
even
being
less.
super nice, and they're going to give them like $450
So maybe
per Bitcoin.
maybe Crypto Seven's right. The lawyers made the bucks on this. I don't
Dude.
know.
oh yeah,
They
totally.
stole it all.
The attorneys usually don't lose, money. Let's say they might lose cases, but they're getting paid to lose or win.
They stole all the Bitcoin.
Yeah, right. Well, that was my big question is like, okay, so let's say, for example, just use the example I gave. Let's say it was one guy and Mt. Gox had 5 of his Bitcoin. And now the guy is going to get the equivalent of $1,500 worth of Bitcoin back. Where's the rest of the Bitcoin go? Right? I mean, did Mt. Gox literally lose that Bitcoin and was it liquidated along the way somewhere? Or was the Bitcoin actually retrieved? And if it was actually retrieved, that guy's only getting a fraction of 1 Bitcoin. So where's the 4.x Bitcoin going?
I think what's his name? Mark Capella's. I think he's getting it probably.
Wasn't he the scammer? Wasn't he the guy that ran the exchange? So he ends up with it. Like he gets.
I read like a deep dive, but I didn't memorize it. But yeah, it's like they keep changing the rules. That's the TLDR. It's like the people in Japan that are in charge, like for the court of making these decisions, they keep like saying, well, if you want your full amount, you have to wait longer. And
Right.
If you want your Bitcoin paid out in Bitcoin, you have to wait longer. And you could take a settlement earlier that's less. And so they've been moving the goalpost for years.
They've been trying to. They're shaking out the weak hands.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then wasn't there also a guy that was buying a bunch of people's claims?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like 35% of it now goes to this one individual, something like that.
So, but I love the part that you guys are speculating that Richard Hart is going to get all the Bitcoin and he's going to buy all the Pulse Chain. Very cool.
That would be
So,
cool.
look, we're an hour and 50 minutes in. We haven't gotten to the other point I wanted to make in the thumbnail. A lot of people have been drumming up support to try to get Pulse Chain listed on Kraken. I think it would be like way more feasible to get Inc. listed on Kraken, whether you have to take like a whale's share of Inc. and bridge it to Ethereum and say, here, this is something that has nothing to do with Pulse Chain. But most importantly, it doesn't have anything to do with the SEC. So the SEC, they're suing Richard Hex, PulseChain, and PulseX, but they didn't include Inc. in the complaint at all. And the reason why the major crypto exchanges, why they haven't listed PulseChain yet, probably has way less to do with like how awesome of a community we are and like how strong we are on Twitter versus their due diligence team and their lawyers, like they can't do it because it's unclear because the corrupt SEC is like throwing all these allegations. Well, what I know is that because there's $30 million of liquidity between Inc. and Pulse and between PulseX and Inc., the entire ecosystem, including PHEX, would rise up if you had massive buying on Inc. alone. And so I think if, Sami or other people are like hearing this that can drum up the support, I think the thing that would help everybody win that would be feasible in terms of the centralized exchanges due diligence would be getting Inc. listed, whether that's Inc. that's bridged to Ethereum and then sold on Kraken, or whether it's directly on Pulse Chain. But those are two, like, I think really good ideas that I haven't seen. And like, I can imagine the Kraken support team being like, oh, there were 50,000 likes on us on our subtweet about like, what should we add? And they were all for Pulse Chain, but we can't add Pulse Chain because there's like corrupt SEC uncertainty around it. So moving on, then they move on to like Polkadot or some like shitcoin. So this is why I think it would make a huge difference if everybody got behind this thesis of Inc. being the platform that pulls up all the other coins by Hart's Law. What do you guys think?
I think that's a great idea. I mean, it makes sense.
Come on, you guys shit on I have tons of great ideas, and you guys always have something negative to say.
I wouldn't say tons.
Come on,
come on. A fair amount of good ideas.
You could do better than that.
I'm going to classify all your ideas.
Okay. Well,
the one.
Okay. I'm trying to be positive, but it's like, are we DeFi or are we not DeFi? Right? Do we need to go suck middleman D to like get more attention on our ecosystem, or do we fight the good fight and wait for them to come to us?
No, we get listed on exchanges.
Well, hey, you asked for a counterpoint. I'm saying that's a counterpoint. But generally,
go to where the money is.
I think it's not a bad idea because they aren't. It's that particular token is not under scrutiny like the others are. So I mean, that could be a factor in why they're not listing. Same with decentralized front ends. Like Uniswap and the others that have taken us off of to be easily traded on Ethereum even.
You don't have to own Inc. for this plan to like benefit you, because by holding Pulse or PulseX or PHEX, you would be benefiting from people buying Inc. Because it has such thick liquidity with all those. It would be as if other people were buying up your things. And equally, the people who are buying Inc. that don't have access to buying Pulse Chain or PulseX or PHEX, they would be benefiting by buying into those things because there's so much shared liquidity that they're getting a share of those, even though they don't hold them directly. So it's
here's a question. So like the MEXC thing, I mean, I know there was a lot of pushback on that, including even from Richard. But I think wasn't the primary concern there that some coins had to kind of be given to MEXC to like list it?
Yeah, so like
so how does it work with Kraken? Is that the same thing?
People can tell you that was a good or a bad deal based on like their own criticisms and stuff. I think that like bribing exchanges is not like super DeFi, not super cool.
Right.
And at the same time, I think that these bigger exchanges are less in it for the bribes and more in it for popularity, for
the trading fees,
offering products, that are going to end up like getting them the good shit. I can already tell you that.
So would they have to buy their allocation? Like, would they? just like we were talking earlier
about,
like
at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to us because none of us are whales. So like, it's it's an opportunity that would exist for anybody who would want to create that market. They would go create that market. But you would imagine that there would already be the entire list of people who are whales, like even Rackham, who's like the most hated whale of all, supports centralized exchange listings because that's how he gets his exit liquidity. Right.
Right.
So I think that there's as like all the little 5,000 or 20,000 people that are hitting the like button on Twitter, like I think we don't really have to care like who gets bribed or whatever. And I mean, Hexy Bastard, he even said on a Twitter Spaces earlier today that he would throw more money at a bigger exchange listing and whatnot. But the point of my
But is that always how it
thesis,
works? Is that always how it works with all exchanges?
you always
Like,
have to
it's a
give
paid-
liquidity.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a big point, Matty. I listen. I wouldn't stand in your way, but I don't think it's the right move. You know, and the reason I say that is because it's like a flash in the pan of value. I mean, the primary reason, maybe the SEC has something to do with why they wouldn't put these up there, but they list other things that are being sued by the SEC. So it's not
Before
the
they
only-
get
not
sued,
the only-
not after. And they
they-
delist things that get sued sometimes.
Not always. It's not that clean, right? I mean, isn't Uniswap being sued right now?
But they were
They're
already
on-
listed. I think it is that clean. I think they have due diligence teams, and like I think they're very clear about it. I think they write it on their websites and stuff that like that they aren't willing to take risks with things that are considered securities because they already have enough things that are in like the gray zone. So
but the thinking with that is, all right. So let's go past the SEC. So let's say you clear that hurdle, then why would you give them millions of dollars worth of free crypto? I don't know why we would do that.
So
Well,
they can make money off of us.
Yeah, but I don't know.
so
I
just
don't
imagine
know.
that
I don't know
imagine
that
that they
that's a
didn't need
investment.
anything. Like the point is, what I'm trying to do is I'm
How
trying
do
to
they get the inventory to sell you?
I mean, I like the visibility aspect. but
So
it's
you're
like you have
never
to
going to
be-
get listed on an exchange because they need like 0.0001 of like the liquidity
Well, I don't know
that
that-
you're already providing on a decentralized exchange.
I don't know at the bottom of the market is necessarily the
Well,
best time to do it.
I would have to give them my crypto for free so they could use it. Why would I do that?
But
Certain exchanges,
the
like
point of me
Binance,
bringing up
they
the
wanted,
idea
like,
is based on
30%
Hart's law
of the
and based on
liquidity.
game theory, not based on like do you have to pay an exchange a bribe in order for the price to go up?
I
It's
think
like
it's true. I think
how
it's
do we
true.
how do we get the next 100 million users in Pulse Chain is like by selling ink on Kraken.
I think we should have
I
a
don't know,
show
man. I don't know. 'Cause
called
we're-
CeFi Tank, where we let all of the
Did you say
CeFi
DeFi?
exchanges
DeFi
grovel at our feet to be
I
listed.
think the example that
Love
comes
it.
to mind, it's kind of like
Wow.
being like a
Good idea.
hardcore Christian and then saying, "Hey, I got this great idea. What we do next Sunday instead of church, we all go
Worship
to
the devil.
we all go to the strip club. Then we take our money that we were going to give to the church, and then we give it to the strippers, and then we hope to convert those strippers so they come to our church next Sunday, and then they start tithing." I think that's kind of what we're saying here. It's like, do we want to fuck around with the dark side if what we really ultimately want, if the end game is to get people more involved with DeFi?
The whales are going to sell in your head whether there are more people that are able to buy it or not. Okay, so
Well,
like
yeah,
this idea of
fine.
like the whales giving a small amount to like the exchange so that people can buy without massive
Hey, bro,
slippage.
you got the ear
and
of
that
the
the
whales. Talk to them, get them to do it. It's like
I
think
guess
it could potentially benefit.
that's what I
just
said.
hate to
I
see-
wouldn't stand in your way, but I mean it's not like it's I don't
But
know.
it's
I kind of like
I
I'm
think
waiting for the
philosophically I have an
technology.
issue with it.
I think I'm looking for the business model to come to us and not the
Right.
other way around.
Right.
And maybe it's premature. Maybe you're right, Matty. I don't know. I'll grant you that. But when I say the business model coming to us, I mean they're recognizing the idea that they're missing out on revenue, All they have to do is incorporate DeFi into their DEX. And I think that this is beginning to happen. We're hearing this happening. They incorporate DeFi into their DEX, and now they're getting the fees on it. And then you have that centralized listing you're looking for, if that's what you're talking
Every
about.
time, anytime
Yeah, what's wrong with
anyone
that?
buys from them, they're earning fees. They're making money by simply buying and selling these coins. So I don't know. I just feel like if they want to make money off of our backs, they should have to buy the coins.
So
They
maybe
shouldn't-
they do. I don't understand.
Thank you, Richard.
You guys are like killing my idea because you had some preconceived
Yes.
notion that there was bribing involved. So like, can we get past the part where like it costs something? Who cares? Yeah, Kraken has to buy it. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, let them buy it.
Let 'em buy it. I mean, it's a
okay
free
with
market,
that.
so anybody should be able to buy it that wants to. if
But
they
they're
want
not going to do that unless they know that there is a community of people that like the coin.
They,
I
Right?
think
Do
they
you
know
see what
we
I'm
like
saying?
the
Like,
coin.
if y'all just,
Can't
if
they buy?
everybody sits back and they're like, oh no, like let them come to us, then
Well,
like
can't they
we
look at the
aren't going to
volumes already?
onboard the next million users.
Can we send
Because-
them like this video and all the previous ones? I'm like, hey man, there's like a community that wants to buy this coin.
Look at the volume for a
Look
year.
at the
you
user
know?
count. Look at the video count.
Yeah. Like there's
Well,
there's
there might be a way to convince people that way. Whereas I agree.
right. Yeah. Like show them that there's like meat on the bone here for them to participate and make this available to a broader audience potentially.
But that's not what the community said to them. The community said, list this thing that the SEC is investigating instead of recommending the coin that we have that's tied to everything else that is not being investigated by the SEC.
no, I
So
mean,
the
I
community
agree.
is like being dumb AF when it
I
comes
agree that if
to
we're-
like
if there's a-
presenting. If there's already 1,000 people that are hitting the like button on Sami's post and he's presenting the like one that they're not allowed to list, that's opportunity.
Right. No, I agree with you. It's like I think, if there's one that we would like that makes the most sense of the tokens to get a listing, then I think I agree with you. And that was my original stance. Is like I think it's a good idea in that regard. And then I posed the questions of, well, do we have to bribe them to get it? Like where does that money come from? Is that and then we went on down those rabbit holes. But yeah, I mean generally speaking, I
Rackham
think
should
a
pay for
more-
it because he's the one who dumps the most.
yeah, then let them facilitate those types of things. I think that would be fine. But I kind of, to Crispy's point earlier, I kind of prefer the thing of letting them come to us. It's like because I think if we really believe like we say we do that what we have is the best thing going and has the most upside and the most potential, then you don't get that by kind of making side deals, right? Like you stay true. So it's kind of like the benefits of Bitcoin maxis, right? It's like we've had this discussion before too. There's a benefit to there being Bitcoin maximalism. It's like it's how Bitcoin got to be what Bitcoin is because there were maxis. Whether or not you agree with it now or not is irrelevant. I mean, it showed itself to be true. So
Maybe
I think
we can make Pulse Latina. Maybe she can make a video for the CFI exchanges.
there you go.
Sure,
Well, I
I
mean,
know-
probably find her on Fiverr and get her for cheap. Maybe.
It'd be cool to get somebody who actually understands what they do on exchanges and how they make the decisions. And so
Right.
I know we quite often I would say something like Toby said, that it's a bribe. But let's take that aside for a moment. Let's think about this like from a business perspective. If I'm running a business and I hope to make money off of it, I don't want to spend $1 million, $5 million, right, on tokens that I can't guarantee will maintain
Look
a
at
price
Polkadot.
in order to earn my 5% on fees that will take me 10 years for ROI. It's just right.
Yeah.
They're going to be looking for 1 to 2 years, 5 at the max, cycle at a max, right? And so that quote unquote bribe is a fast track to get liquidity, right? Because they already got the Bitcoin, they already got whatever else they got, right? They want the ink. If using your example, they would want the ink, so somebody has to provide the ink to them. That's kind of like the business, right? I mean, because they're not gonna spend $10 million on highly volatile asset with the idea that they're never going to make the money back, because it's not how I mean, maybe somebody will make that mistake, but it's probably not the way it should work.
Well, and over time, like you said, Crispy, it's kind of working toward them integrating DeFi into their platforms in some capacity. So there could be a situation where it's like they're just there's almost like a tunnel, if you can imagine, from the centralized exchange out to DeFi.
Coinbase buys Bitcoin and Ethereum on market. Like
currently, right?
They needed something to get started so that they wouldn't lose their money, and then now it works. So I don't understand.
Granted, but it's like I'm just trying to, maybe this is too dumbed down, but it's like I'm just trying to think of it like, if I'm a centralized exchange, I don't want to put myself at risk to like go out and buy allocations of these tokens to have available to sell on my centralized exchange. Is there technology that would allow my customers to go through a special tunnel from my centralized exchange out to DeFi? We help facilitate the trade for them, and then, put the tokens in their account. I mean, that to me seems like a better way from a CeFi perspective of how to do it and capture fees off of those people that don't want to take control of their own seed and control their own wallets.
Well, the point wasn't to like stab in the dark at like how it works. The point was to just like recognize that it's a good idea to choose the coin that's not being sued by the SEC to list on an exchange where there's billions of dollars.
Yes,
like that was the point.
Anything else?
And,
if I see
but
on
no,
Twitter or wherever,
we can't do that because it would take $100,000.
I'm wearing a green shirt
or whatever it is, or maybe nothing. Maybe it would cost nothing.
No,
you
support. Cold hands.
But no support.
To be fair, you started out the conversation.
Can we build a ring of trust and love? Everyone.
You did start the conversation, Matty, by cajoling us to say, "Hey, how come you guys aren't disagreeing with?"
Yeah, you asked.
And so here we are giving you the opinions.
To come at you.
But hey, maybe you're right. Another way to go about it.
Isn't that why you love us, Maddie?
That's why I have you guys on the show. Because
you don't have a bunch of fucking yes men on this show. That's right. For sure.
Yeah.
Yes, Toby. Well, maybe what you're saying is this, Matty, to go all the way back to the beginning, is if you gave them such an avalanche of responses on a tweet, they would consider it.
Yeah, as long as it wasn't SEC involved, which we have not done yet. We've not tried to ask for free to get ink listed with 1,000 people behind it.
Go ask them.
That'd be great.
We'll go ask them. Right? Isn't there a link?
I have never gotten 1,000 likes on a tweet, so I don't have any power in that regard. But people who watch the show like Sami do.
There you go. Well, we just got to get Sami to, wake up and smell the coffee, understand these more nuanced things. If he's watching, then, he's a smart guy. Maybe he will take this under advisement and have that in his next series of videos or tweets. And then we can get more people aligned with this vision.
There you go.
I don't want to spend any money.
Well, me neither. Not now. Talk to me in the bull.
Sorry, Pulse Latina has all my money.
Oh, Bruce.
Just joking.
Buy Hex, stake Hex. Have to say.
I mean, like I was very upset because I'm writing a physical booklet that will be printed with 1,000 physical coins that are Pulse Chain wallets and Pulse Chain branded, and so I have to write down like how to get into Pulse Chain, and all of the ways are very complicated. And but what about Coast? No, Coast. People keep reporting that you can use it in the US, but you can't. And I confirm this. So like,
not in the US yet.
Crypto Coffee, bless his heart, accidentally posted a tweet today that like says in the screenshot he took of Coast that they are not available in the US. And he, in his tweet, he wrote that they were. So it's like, we don't have the on-ramps that we need. So it's no surprise that the price isn't higher, is because the community isn't doing the work. And you can, you can say, well, Richard should do it. But what I'm saying is, if we just put the same effort that we put behind getting Pulse Chain listed on Kraken, which I believe is impossible, we could be getting Inc listed on Kraken and be miles ahead of where we would be otherwise. I still think we're going to the moon one way or another, but I think that, just sitting back and waiting for somebody else to do it isn't the best way. So,
All right. Okay.
Like, how are we going to get new users if it's so freaking hard?
We're
Make it
all
easier.
here.
You make
If
it
it's
easier.
so hard.
Don't oversell
Even
it, bro.
I can
Don't
do
oversell
Make it easier.
I'm a
Make it
brainless,
easier to get into Pulse Chain.
and yet I've managed to get in. I mean, people think I'm one of the stupidest hexagons around, and yet I'm here. Come on, if I'm here, how hard could it possibly be, guys?
Well,
And
can you
you're
explain to me
how
in
slowly I
20
come.
seconds how to get onto Pulse Chain?
Easily.
All
Go
right.
on Coinbase, buy ETH, put in a MetaMask wallet.
Wrong. You have to set up an account. You have to do KYC. You have to
Bridge
say how
over.
you fund the Coinbase. So
Bridge
already
over.
wrong. Next.
You're already on Pulse Chain. Boom.
No.
Move out of the U.S.
Doesn't work.
Number one, step one.
It's
Yeah.
as simple as that.
Get a
If
new
you-
passport. Step one.
If you can make a
That's a quick
Facebook
process.
log-on, you can make a Coinbase account.
Probably the fastest way is go to my Bitcoin ATM. That's probably the fastest way.
People just don't like having to make new accounts. They get real tired of it. And I get it, typing in your name and address and your bank account. Super hard because you have to do this with your fingers. I know you could be making easy money digging for diamonds in Africa, but it's so hard to do this.
Well, people aren't in the habit of giving out their bank information on any brand new website. So there's an element of trust. And even if they do trust, and even if they do spend 20 minutes, then usually the instructions are broken, like the Coast sign up where we're promoting to people that it's available in the US and it's really not. And so when I'm like auditing the ways to get into Pulse Chain, I'm discovering that there are giant holes that could easily be fixed by people just having a better by the educators being better educated, and then we wouldn't have to be bellyaching so much about the prices because they would be so much higher.
Well, I just told you how to onboard to Pulse Chain in 5 steps.
Beautiful.
Coinbase, MetaMask, Bridge. It's as simple as that.
Beautiful. So there is a way in 1 step with a credit card.
Change now.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Kyle Cruz, for making me look smarter than I am.
Change now.
.io.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, but Matty, I think this actually speaks to kind of where my head's at on the whole conversation, which is look at how far we've come just in the first year of Pulse Chain during a bear market, mind you. All the things that have been built on it and all the different tools and resources that are out there. GoRealDeFi.com, the RH Maxi site that he put up, RH Maximus site, GoPulse.com, Hex Scout, phux.io to do portfolio tracking. There's so much stuff. There's all these different dexes that have popped up that enable single-sided staking, liquidity farming, all this stuff in just the first year. So I don't think we're that big of a leap. I mean, look at how long was Hex around before Staker app came, right? I mean, it was around for a minute. I mean, not quite a year. But then Staker app came out, and look what it was able to do as far as adoption and people being aware of it. So I think, much like my joke that goes all the way back to the online conference, the conference before last that you did, when I was talking with Tangent for hours, and the Sheriff of Nottingham app, the alternative to the Robinhood app. If there was something like that where people could still have control of their own tokens and their own keys and participate in DeFi in something as simple as the Robinhood app, which I think is coming, then all this gets solved, right? Then it's literally to the masses. It stays as true DeFi. We're not playing around with antiquated tech, which is CeFi, right? Because it's like if the vision is real and it's ultimately going to be all DeFi, like at some point, right? And CeFi is a thing of the past. Then I can see where there's a benefit to maybe using them as a stepping stone, because that happens in businesses all the time. To use another thing that's currently ahead of you to surpass them. So I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's actually a good thing as far as, if people are going to ask, hey, what do you want listed on Kraken? Ink is the obvious choice. I concede that. But I really think long term, if we believe what we've been preaching year over year about DeFi being the future, then I believe that they will come to us, and our own technology just has to get up to speed, and that will increase adoption. And then green candles get even more eyeballs than even it being listed on a centralized exchange. Like when the DeFi bull run happens, presumably in 2025, I think that that's going to make a lot of people figure out real quick that this thing, like Bruce was talking about, isn't that hard. It's a barrier to entry now, because I don't know, man. But then all of a sudden, they're ready to do it and buy at much higher prices. We see it over and over and over again, right? It's like, how many of you guys right now are getting blown up by people wanting, like people that you had tried to onboard before that are now reaching back out? How many people? Like it's my numbers are down, and my callbacks are down. Like people that I've reached out to, be like, hey, did you want to talk about this thing? You expressed some interest before, but when we had a pump a few months ago, dude, phone was ringing off the hook. Everybody wanted in. It's the same thing, and that was nothing. That was
Well, it was easier to get in back then because Coast was available and these other things were working.
Yeah, I mean, I still did Briz's method with my onboards, because it's tried and true, and that's just kind of the way I did it. And I figured if they want to learn about real DeFi, then they need to learn about bridges, and they need to learn all of it. So, I mean, but to each their own with the way you do it, with the way that you onboard and the way you educate people. But I'm just saying that, as the bull market presents itself, then a lot of these problems are going to kind of solve themselves. And there's going to be more people that are going to see money to be made, that want to come in and want to make that app, that want to, that want to make DeFi more accessible to the masses because they see the opportunity there. And then like Crispy had alluded to earlier, places like Kraken, they see the volumes and they want a piece of that action. So, it lowers that barrier.
Yeah, and a little fact check too. So I just went and looked at Kraken, and I put the link up there, Matty, in the chat. They do not accept the listing fee at all, according to their website.
Free.
So that would mean that that would mean one of the most recent listings that they've had. I'll give you this one. This is so funny. Is Doland Trump is the latest that you can buy and sell. They must be buying that on the market in order to provide for the demand.
There you go.
So apparently they would do that, and so there is an application form that has to be filled out and submitted.
Yeah.
But
Look, all I'm saying,
Matty might know that already. Though.
I see the path forward. I know how the next $1 billion flows into the Pulse chain. Quite frankly, we don't need any more users, to tell you the truth. Now, it'd be nice if we had 1 million new users. Trust me, I want 1 million new hexagons on chain. All I'm saying is we don't need 1 million new people for this shit to go to the moon. Either people
You talk about
learn,
real DeFi, but that sounds like expectations of a middleman. So,
well,
like
legalese.
choose
A lot
a
of
side.
flavors. A lot of flavors
Choose
on the
a
board
side.
today.
Well, whatever. I just know where the next million. I know where the next $1 billion is coming from, and people are going to be coping pretty hard when they're not in the RH assets. And the people that don't want to learn, they're not going to get in. They're not going to be on this train when it takes off. So
Choo choo.
whatever. We're gonna go to the moon with or without you.
Well put.
Bum, bum, bum.
So don't worry, guys. If you guys are in the Richard Hart assets,
Do nothing. Do less.
Wag.
Onboard less people. That's the answer that
Yes,
Brisology
please.
has
Insulting
found.
I need.
That's the
I want less
solution.
competition
Yeah,
at the top of the
That's right.
market. Okay, so if all of y'all could just leave right now, I
No.
wouldn't be sad at all. I'm not worried one bit. I used to be worried about that kind of stuff because I thought we actually needed more and more people, but
Well, I mean, some of this perception. I get that, Matty. You want to see more adoption, more people come in. We just hit 1 million wallets. So are we doing good? Or are we not doing good? Are we only measuring by dollar value? Maybe. I guess you go by dollar value, right? It was like, well, things are down, so therefore everything must be bad.
It's hard to get in, is my point.
but it's
Not
possible.
that the dollar value is like wrong, but like the
Is it-
reason the dollar value is down is because it's hard to get in.
Yeah.
When the dollar value is higher, it was easier to get in.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, do we want to? I mean,
When the dollar value was higher, it was easier to get in.
Yeah.
No, it was exactly the same.
In March, Coast was working for the US. There were people who go on stream that were doing 100K buys through Coast. I'm sure they're getting their money in other ways, but like it's not as easy. And if you onboarded somebody to Coast and then Coast breaks for 6 months or 3 months or whatever it was, then yeah, you're going to have less buying if you don't go back to all those people and teach them how to do it a different way.
well, I mean, I would
wouldn't.
suspect that someone that wants to buy 100K worth of Pulse Chain assets would figure out a way. Like if that one's not working, I figure if they're ready to throw that kind of money around, it's like it's not as the ease of access isn't as big of a factor. I guess
Kraken got in without Coast.
right.
I'm not arguing that there's not a way in. I'm saying that when it's easier, it's better.
When it's easier, sure. Well, but is it better if we're lowering the bar to entry, right? Like if we're making it easier for like Joe Schmo to get in, is he going to have a Trezor? Is he going to like throw 10 grand, it's life savings at it, and then he doesn't have a Trezor and he gets rugged?
I started in Ethereum with $20, and I needed to do that $20 trade in order for me to come back a few years later and put in $1,000 or my life savings or whatever. So yeah, you need to start somewhere. You need to be able to get on the chain easily. That is a net benefit, period. Full stop. Yes, it doesn't matter.
A known need. It's a known need. I'll grant that.
There's a faucet now.
There is already people who are talking. All right. You got me now. This is going to be good. This is going to be good. All right. Because I love building, but the builder didn't even know that there's already a bot that gives you Pulse.
Right.
So that is completely redundant and unnecessary. Like it showed the incompetence of like not realizing that there is already a solution to that that's working. People are talking about stuff and they're building stuff, but they're not even using the chain. So they're not realizing what's needed. There's a missing feedback loop there. I'm like, what's needed is it needs to be easier for people to get on Pulse Chain. And Change Now helped with that significantly. You can buy up to $1,400, just like the 14 pulses. You can buy up to $1,400 on changenow.io with your credit card or with your crypto that you already have, whatever. And it's one step. It's one step, and you can do it immediately. And you send it to your MetaMask or wherever.
I would say the biggest problem is that it's not even the multiple steps. It's just that people don't know that there is a thing called MetaMask. They're like, MetaMask? Like, what does that even do? They don't know that there's a website called pulseramp.com. They don't know about all these things and how to get there. Because I have helped a lot of people, and I notice I'm like, all right, now go here, now do this, now go there and do this. And I think to myself, I'm like, man, how did I even figure all this out? And it's just from being here and being exposed that I know of all the websites and how to navigate the system. that's the hardest part, is just navigating the system. It's not even doing it. All we're doing is moving our fingers. It's just navigating the system is the biggest hurdle.
Yeah, I got to tell you, with all due respect, Matty. I mean, and it's not negative. I like what you're talking about. I understand that you might have a point that I don't agree with. That's better and right. Maybe for what you want to have happen, what we want to have happen, the sequencing is wrong. Maybe it's not about making sure anybody with $10 can get in, but maybe the focus is really everybody with 10 million gets in first. I don't know. Just thinking
Well,
about this and the ideas
yeah,
about coming through.
they need instructions that work.
I would almost say the onboarding process is so difficult that it allows only the people who actually want to be here
Yeah, barrier to
to be
entry for
here.
sure. Yeah.
Like
Whether it's
those
good, whether
those
that's
are
good or not.
those
But what
are
I
those
don't
are
know,
cool
man.
stories, bro. But the top two influencers that we have that are active right now are, one, recommending things that are broken, and two, recommending things that are impossible versus something that's possible. So like,
You did reach out to them and talk to them about it, though, right? Let them know.
no.
Oh, well, hopefully somebody will let them know.
Somebody did in the case of recommending Coast when it was broken. Like somebody had already posted, but
Well, I got
123 people had already liked it. So people,
I got
my point is that people are promoting things without understanding them themselves, and so there could be a much greater efficiency with what we're already doing.
There is that. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to pick on you. I think your intent is right. I think it's right that we want to get more people in. I mean, there's different ways to go do it. If we can get more people in, it's quicker. I wish that DeFi wasn't as hard as it is sometimes. But when you try to compare things like Solana and whatnot, I mean, what really is the difference? It's one extra step or two extra steps. Okay, it's more, right? We know that people don't like to click more than twice when they go to a website, right? And sometimes they'll just walk away. So you have a point. Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you there. But I mean, if I'm going to, I guess I haven't gone to all the chains. But if I go to Coinbase and I want to get onto, another network, I've got to have an address there. I have to do the send from Coinbase to get there. So I guess the difference is there's a bridge in the middle. Is that the big barrier to entry? And the fact that there's not clear instruction around it, is that what you're saying? For everybody? Because if I go to BSC, I mean, aren't all of these like that? I mean, they're not all integrated already.
Well,
And
and
then I
once
got to go learn about those because I don't know anything about those.
right, and then
I
once
mean,
you're in, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, hey, let's say, to use your example of how it was easier back in March, someone got in and they bought some Hex, they bought some Pulse, they bought some PulseX, they bought some Ink.
But
Well,
really, but
what's
really,
happened to the
Toby,
prices since then? And because then they
Toby,
didn't learn what
was
the
it really
optimal play with those are.
was it really easier? Now, again, Matty, kind of like tongue in cheek, but I mean, I tested Coast. It worked great. But what did I have to do?
Same.
I had to contact my bank and get something set up there so that I could actually send it to the new digital account. I had my new digital account, and then I had to get my transfer in. I got my transfer in. Then I had to take my USD, and at that time I had to move it over to Coast, right?
Right.
So I had to buy the Coast, and then I had to swap for what I wanted, and I had to know that because at that time they didn't necessarily have all the assets there. I think I did it right on the screen, or I had to send it to my wallet anyway. So there's a lot of steps involved, but it was more enclosed. That's for sure.
And if you want the fees lowered, you have to go buy some
Oh
weight coin.
yeah, and then
you
I
gotta
had to know.
stake
Then I had to
that.
know that. I mean, so it's not. Yeah, it was just a different set of steps. But I think your points are all is still valid, right? I mean that it'd be a lot easier. I can pick up my phone right now and buy make believe Bitcoin very quickly, like in 2 seconds. In fact, one night I fell asleep and sold a whole bunch of Bitcoin, and then I woke up and realized I had to buy it back because I pushed the stupid button while I was sleeping. So yeah. I mean,
Exactly.
I mean, that's how easy, or maybe you don't want to do that, but that's how easy that could happen, right?
Well, I'm
I
glad we
I I,
all agree for once.
I concede to the
Less
point that
users is
it would be
better.
easier.
Get less people in and
Well, that's
make
what
it
Bruce said. Now,
as easy
Bruce
as
is always
pushing a
right.
button in your sleep.
All
Screw
I'm
the little
saying
guy.
is I've made the case for $1 billion
Screw the dummies.
to flow in. It's gonna cost the OA nothing other than a little bit of time and some clicky of buttons. And Richard made a tweet just like yesterday, maybe it was today, about how some of these assets from Mount Gox could potentially buy assets that we like, and that's pretty cool. So I don't know, guys. All I'm saying is I'm super bullish. I see very green pastures coming pretty soon. And
like
if
it.
people aren't in, you're not in.
Oh man, crypto's over. We're never going to see another
It's a second cycle
another
We're
narrative.
all
I mean, it's all like,
doomed.
crypto is fifth cycle
don't do
now.
it. Don't buy.
This is
Whatever you
fifth
do,
cycle crypto. Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you, Bruce. I'm
don't
watching
get
the
in. It's too
charts. I'm
hard.
seeing everything. I mean, Kobe's seeing the same stuff. Matty feels the same way. I think. We're seeing normal 4-year cycle stuff. That's it.
This train is taking off with or without any of you damn ass plebs. And I don't care if you guys
Do
get
you,
left
do you want to be on
behind.
a train
You're gonna
full
be
of a
left
bunch of
behind.
broke plebs that smell like hot dog water that
I
don't know
did my
how to like
part.
hook up a hardware wallet? Seriously,
I
though,
did
Briz?
my part to
I
let
would rather
all
be
of
hanging out
y'all
in like
know.
the rich guy car eating caviar with the whales. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you rather be in that special luxury car on the train than
I
like
did
that
my
scene
part
in India where
to
they're all
let.
piled on the
All right,
outside,
Toby,
hanging
shut
off the
up.
sides?
I
I've
did my
done my
part.
part to let everyone know to
Let
get on
everybody
this damn train.
get
And
on the
if you
train.
guys are on smaller trains with broker plebs, they're running on steam engines. We got
The
this really nice bullet train.
the pepperoni
I
train.
want the
Yeah.
bullet train, bro. I want the bullet train right to the top.
Hey,
Somebody to
I'm
tell me
right
when to
there.
sell
I'm
the
right
top.
there with you, Bruce. I almost feel like I won't do this. But I almost feel like I'm going to quit. Yeah, I almost feel like I should quit streaming and talking on anything here in the near future because things are going to take off so hard, and I'm going to feel bad talking to people about how they missed it.
Right?
Oh
So,
no, that'll be the fun part.
and yeah,
Well,
that's not for me. 'Cause
no, I'm just kidding.
I'll be feeling bad because
Nah, you should, dude. We've been here. You've been
I
here. You've been
know,
here
I
doing
know.
this longer than I have. I mean, you've been on Game Theory Gang longer than I have alone. And it's like yeah, dude. We've been doing our part. We've been grinding away. Matty, Jesus, how many hours of streaming has that poor guy got in? It's like we've been doing our part to try to educate people along the way. So if they missed it, they got no one to blame but themselves by not applying themselves and going out there and doing their research and educating themselves and figuring out how to do it. And yeah, granted, it is more difficult to get in than we would all like it to be. But I think as time goes on, there will be more resources available, and it's going to get easier and easier. And just like I started the stream quoting something Richard said, I'm going to do it again. Some people look at these as barriers to entry. Some people look at it as opportunity, right? It's like, to me, it's opportunity. I put in the effort, I put in the time, I put in the money to like get in at the levels I got in at. And I fully believe, like Briz is saying, good times are, right around the corner. The train is leaving the station, and I hope your bags are packed. Not financial advice, but look around. It's like there's no community like this community, not even not even close. If you watch
Right.
Sami at all, I mean, Sami will tell you he's keeping an eye on all of them. Why is he so fixated on the Pulse Chain community? Because he knows community matters, right? And so all of you watching and all of you sharing this out and all of you engaging it on socials and sharing it on socials, you're all part of that, right? So I mean, that's how we continue to get the word out. And then there's going to be some genius, like the next whale probably hasn't even bought yet, right? It's like that's the narrative that we heard from early on too, which was true. and it still remains true. It will always be true. You know, you don't know who the next whale is going to be, and you don't know who the next genius is going to be. Look at Alex. Look at what Alex is doing for the community. Look at other great like genuine builders that were not extracting wealth for themselves, but like literally trying to like flesh out the community. Look at what Crispy's contributed. Look at what Matty's done. It's like, you know, there's so many people that have really contributed great things, and you know, who's to say that some guy out there that has these great ideas about how to make an app or something that that we haven't even thought of to help broader adoption, catches wind of this stream and is like, "What? These guys are super fired up. What's this about?" And then they dig in a little bit, and the next thing you know, it's like, maybe they're not the next whale, but they're the next huge brain, the next galaxy brain to join forces in the Pulse Chain ecosystem and help move the ball forward, because it's on us. We no expectations, right? It's like Richard doesn't work for us. We have to do it.
Yeah.
The best time to get into an asset is when it's the hardest to get into it. Look up Bitcoin. It is the easiest time to get into it. It has a
So we should make it
friggin'
harder then.
ETF. It has a friggin' ETF. And look at it. It's like $65,000-$70,000. When the Pulse Chain ETF is roaring up, it will be really easy to get into, but all these assets are going to be way higher. So people, you got to either do the work, or you can just wait until the assets are way higher and way easier to get into. It's your choice.
Yo.
Bingo.
There you go.
This is the future.
That's right.
And if you
and
see any more posts
Brisology
out there-
contributes a lot of graphics, a lot of
He's great at that.
hexagon-shaped imagery on Twitter.
I'm just trying
should
to
follow him.
help people survive the bear. I hope my pretty imagery gives them a little bit of rock steadiness.
That's right. Well,
All counts.
should we leave it there?
Yeah, I
think
think so.
we should leave it
Just
there.
one last thing though, I'd like to say, if you see another tweet out there saying, "Hey, what token should we list?" Ink. That's not
is
hard.
the one.
Keep it simple. Ink.
Ink.
It makes sense for all the reasons. Go back and watch the stream. We covered it from every angle. Ink's the one to recommend.
And if you have a great idea to onboard a lot of people to Pulse Chain, do it. Despite what Brisology says.
Yeah.
Don't
Right.
onboard competition for me.
That's right.
Onboard them when like Hex is at like 30-40 cents. And
Or now.
and Pulse Chain is at like 3, 4, 5 cents. That's when you guys can onboard people. Okay, I'll allow it.
Sounds good.
Love it.
So thanks for joining in, everybody. Hit the like and subscribe button. Follow these guys in the description below. And until next time, stake wisely, my friends, and peace out.
Steak, Hex, and chill.
Take and chill, baby.
Quattro Cincos available today.
What the heck?
Go watch this video called "The Growing Hatred for Financial Influencers" by